SMTN.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Network Link 167. I'm your host, Spencer Presley, and joining me today is Simply Dad. Is it my dad? Is it your dad? I don't know. It's Simply Dad.
You said 170-something episodes when you started calling me, and now you're saying it's 160-something?
This episode we're on is 167. I've done a lot of specials. We do interviews. We're a multifaceted podcast. If you look on our iTunes feed, there might be as many Metal Gear Solid dedicated episodes than actual YouTube videos you have produced.
That's honestly true, probably in my entire life, given that I upload maybe once every 4 months, 3 months.
You're a very curated content creator. So, Dad, if people don't know who you are, or if they do know who you are, first we'll say sorry, and then also we'll say hello. So, Dad, who are you, and why are you called Simply Dad?
Okay, so I'm Simply Dad. I make YouTube videos about whatever I like, and recently I've been on my Megaten grind. I don't know where the name came from. Me and Spencer were talking before we started, and he said it's because I don't have a dad. I'm just gonna go with that, because I have no answer to give you.
It's better than the alternative of my mom was looking for a man in her life, and she just went to the closest person she was living with.
A lot of people because when I started making videos around 2014, it was like these epic roasting commentary videos where I'd just make fun of people for absolutely no reason. And people would just assume that I did it because I have some kind of daddy fetish. And actually, quite the contrary, I hate that shit.
And so explain to me on the internet's #1 SMTN Persona podcast, what is a daddy fetish? Does that mean, like, because I'm aware from a female's perspective what liking a daddy fetish is, but like from a male's perspective, how does that work?
Well, I actually don't know what it is. I'm just assuming it's people who like being called that shit, like who are into that shit.
Answer. I was luring you in, and you just narrowly got out of that. Because if you answered that too fast, you would have just immediately been, oh, we got an expert on our hands.
Yeah, it's like we got a good actor on our hands. But no, I'm actually the point where, like, I will tell somebody, hey, don't call me that ever. Like, I've dated enough people in my life who think that's like super quirky, where it's like, yeah, daddy. I'm like, oh, you talking to someone else? Because it's definitely not me that you're talking to like that. Like, don't say that, please.
In these situations, are the girls around your age?
I usually talk to or date people older than me, but not too older than me. So yeah, like always somewhere around like 22, 25.
I have a perpetual problem. Well, not perpetual anymore, but I used to have this thing of long time relationship. Let's say lasts around 6 to 9 months. I say, oh my God, that one was so crazy. I'm never doing that again. She was clearly too young for me. We'll try and go for somebody my age or older. Then the next person ends up being younger, and the next one, and the next one. And now we're at my current wife, who is almost 4, if not 5 years younger than me, and I'm like, man, I'm such a clown. What am I doing with my life?
I feel like you need to state your age, because for anybody who doesn't know, that might be a little suspect.
I'm 16, she's 11. It's pretty sweet. I've been doing this show
That's
since
not even the math. 4 years younger than 16 is 12.
Listen, man, I'm 16. I know I can't even go to high school anymore. We got the quarantine. What's going on?
I failed math in high school, and I know that.
That's true. No, man, this show's been going on too long. I can't. What's really funny though is like my voice kind of like I've been in this registered octave probably since like middling years of high school. So it is kind of funny of like other people I can listen to on the podcast for like years and years and years. Be like, wow, you sound so different. I listen to myself. It's like, oh, whatever. Actually, I wonder if you've ever had this. You know how the first time you ever hear yourself in a microphone, there's that weird moment of how you think you sound, and then when you have to listen to yourself, especially with like making videos and editing podcasts like I have to, that weird moment like, oh my god, I do not sound at all like how I think I sound.
Yeah, if I'm in a call with somebody in like a private call or something and I hear myself, I'm like, damn, I sound like that. I must be tired. Because if my voice gets higher, I'm more tired. Like if like I usually because I don't have a deep voice, I have a bassy voice where you can like feel it in your throat. Because I know I can, not in like a sexual way, unless you want it to be that way. But like it throws me off when I hear my own voice, and it makes me like kind of like sit up, readjust because like damn, I sound like that right now. Let me fix that. Or damn, I sound like that right now. You know what I'm saying?
See, mine was the opposite. I always thought I had a really high pitch voice, and then it was started like with choir, which probably is part of the reason. And like I have a pretty wide octave in terms of like how I can sound and what I can like do for like singing and talking. But one of the funny things is what started with like when I started doing podcasts, I hated having to listen to myself, but I just had to do it because I also edit them all. And then it got to the point where I think like a year into doing podcasts, I hear what everyone else hears. Like my ears have like adjusted to it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Okay, so if people don't know, since we were talking about both of us being on that sweet MT kick, what is your history with SMT slash the purse owners?
Well, I started playing SMT in around 2013. I've heard of it before, not necessarily like known of it, but I've heard it before because I think I have memories of listening to like Digital Devil Saga music back in the day. I used to really like Persona 4 music when I was in like middle school, but like
I
2013.
feel like that was a backhanded diss on the Persona 4 soundtrack.
No,
But I
because I think I still like it
All
to this
right,
day.
all right. I was gonna say I saw someone like on Twitter was like talking about the Persona 4 soundtrack and was like, "What's your favorite song?" And I wanted to tweet and be like your affection, but I feel like as soon as I did, people would be like, "That song is trash." And I was like, "Man, I'm aware that's like the most repetitive song in that entire game soundtrack, but like I don't know why I never got sick of it."
Well, if it makes you feel better, people say that Persona 5 is the best soundtrack in the franchise, and that literally is just like 5 songs repeated throughout 100 hours.
See, we'll get into that complaints because one of the interesting reasons I wanted to bring you on is I feel like compared to myself, you and I are definitely more on opposite spectrums of like I wouldn't say I blindly praise things, but I definitely have a lot more of like a it's sort of
Positive outlook.
it's
You're not a
weird because
piece of shit.
I'll still shit on things and criticize and be very hard on things, but at the same time I don't think I ever like have had enough moments personally with the series where I've let things kind of negatively affect my opinion of other titles and things like that. Like that's why whenever you guys will be like talking about like your comments or like other people's reactions, like say to your latest like Persona 5 video, I'm like, man, I don't have that. Like I was even on Twitter before it started, like someone made this big long thread that was like the Persona community is so toxic, they're always arguing, and like I'm just sitting here and
Oh
I'm just like,
man.
man, I've had like none of that. Like the most we get, like the worst it gets is like someone, for example, like just platinumed Persona 4 Golden in our group, which is a really hard platinum to do, and like just on time base commitment alone. And like someone posted it, and one of the earlier comments someone put was like, "Oh, it's not that hard, nerd." Which I loved that everyone instead of arguing with him and starting a fight, we all just decided to laugh, react at him. Because it's just like it's like the people who were like, "Oh, Persona 5 Royal has such an easy platinum. It's like insulting. I hate its trophy list." And I'm like, "It still is 100 hours. Like what?
Yeah.
It's like going from ball crushing torture to like the Pain Olympics doesn't mean it's like better. It just is being more considerate when it still takes triple digits to finish."
Obviously, it's not as hard because I managed to beat it. Even though I've never played any of the other games, Persona 5 is too easy because I could do it.
I love the people who were like, oh man, like I saw a take recently about Persona 5 that I see that's a lot. It's just kind of on the funny side of like people are like, oh, Royal is so easy. Like I have all of these DLC personas for free, and I can just steamroll this game.
Yeah, okay, that's such a stupid ass complaint. Like, oh, I get all the DLC for free, which includes all these level 90 personas. Just don't use the personas.
Yeah, it goes back to like the whole
Whoa.
difficulty thing of like, dude, just just play what you want to play. Like, you can make that game as hard or as not hard as you want. Because like when John like Gnarly had made that tweet about difficulty, I just thought it was so funny. Of just like, besides people memeing on games being too easy or too hard, how many actual conversations have you had with friends about like being like, fuck, dude, like I love Soul Hackers. It's just too hard. Like it makes everything else worse. It's like, no, just
Yeah.
make it easier then. Like I've never once out of years of covering this franchise been like, oh, man. Like, you can talk about the difficulty, but I've never thought the difficulty has been a like main point. Like, I've never known anyone to like act like these are like Dark Souls, where like the difficult mechanics add to the experience. It's like
I
super
mean,
low on
have
the
you read
list.
anything from a games journalist before?
I
Oh,
have.
dude, this is the hardest game. The brutal difficulty. You'll never be able to fish the first boss. Can we talk about Matador, please? The hardest boss in JRPG history? Hello?
It's moments like that that made me very passionate about when I was doing a lot more active like games writing, of like, I'm just never gonna be that guy. I I'm just like, I'm gonna pride myself on playing all these games that are usually traditionally horribly covered. Like, people always give like all the big sites like, oh my god, have you ever seen IGN talk about Kingdom Hearts? I'm like, yeah, that's bad, but like, imagine actually being a fan of more niche series like SMT and Persona and stuff. It's like, any of their coverage is literally like, the way people make fun of Persona fans, that is the gaming majority of the gaming media's like coverage of it. It's like,
That's that's kind of sad in my opinion because everyone on the internet just collectively shits on gaming journalists, but ironically enough, the way people parrot criticisms or their opinions about especially Megaten games, like you said, more niche franchises where not a lot of people have played, it's almost like verbatim the shit that you hear from game journalists. Like how Pokemon and Persona are linked, or how SMT is just Persona but harder, things like that. Like I think it's really funny because no one sees the irony in that when they say things like that. Because like if you just play the games, it's not true. It blows my mind that people just say one thing is bad and then do the same exact thing.
hmm and obviously a lot of it is like perspective and like what other people's like sort of coverage is for it. Like, I always find it really funny how, even though the Western side of like press always gets a bad rap for like covering more niche side of things, at the same time, I find it really interesting how you never see people in Asian culture actually like prominently be like, oh man, did you see this like terrible write up in Famitsu or like Dengeki PlayStation? Like, it's just, no, it's just like they just cover all games like they're the same. Like, no one's ever been like, oh my god, dude, IG in Japan just totally roasted this year's Call of Duty. But it is funny how like those biases are just kind of like not present in like other forms of like culture and stuff. Like, a really interesting one is, I'm trying to think. I think it was Famitsu just had their like 2019 Game Awards or whatever finally go up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And oh yeah, because P5R got like the music one, I think. And by the way, P5R is so lucky it came out in egg territory last year, because I was talking about this with a bunch of people last night. Even with like the 4 months of games we've had, I'm like, Persona 5, like, let's say no games come out. Like, all this craziness happens and no real major games end up coming out after May, which obviously isn't going to happen. Like, there are other games that are going to like come out and like digitally and stuff. I'm like,
Mhm.
Persona 5 Royal, even though it is like the highest rated review game of the year, and I personally really liked it and had a bunch of time sunk into it, that game does not even deserve to be in like the top 3 like best games this year. Like, because of like how it was reviewed and stuff, I would not be surprised. um okay, let me actually take a step back for it. Like, Persona 5 Royal is the Western media's like number one highest rated review game this year. But
Yeah.
even though like as us, like people who are pretty inclined into people playing it and stuff like that, have you been like hearing other people talk about it like it's the best game ever?
Uh, yes, but you know what I was talking about in the group chat? Like, just bringing this up like real quick. I'm not trying to have like some tinfoil hat theory, you know what I'm saying? But like the guidelines for reviewing and like putting Persona 5 Royal Media on there literally says you cannot slander the game. What the fuck does that mean, though? You know what I'm saying?
You're
Like,
not allowed opinions. You
it's
gotta.
such a vague ass thing to say. Like, what does that mean? I feel like that like scares journalists or scares reviewers into maybe being a little like a little less heavy-handed with the criticism, you know what I'm saying? That's why in my personal video that I made just now or a week ago about Persona 5, I neglected to mention Royal at all. Because what if me saying, oh, from the looks of it, Royal doesn't seem to change any of the issues that I have, like just from like a baseline perspective. What if that was slanderous enough to get my video taken down? And I'm
Well,
not saying that's like
thankfully, Atlas is like a really weird company in terms of like they have really hard like restrictions, but they've oddly enough like lightened up a bunch over the last like 2 or 3 years. The odd thing is they always have all these super crazy like out there like rules, especially with like their media, that they very rarely actually like follow through on. And actually going back to your tinfoil hat kind of theory about like why people aren't harder on the game, honestly, the reason behind that is like this. Let's say you go to any major outlet who covers video games.
yeah,
If you say, "Hey guys, who wants to review Final Fantasy VII Remake?" I'm sure almost everyone in the room's hand shut up because that's like a super big, everyone wants to check it out kind of like tentpole release game. And then
yeah.
if people went, "Hey guys, who wants to replay Persona 5 again for 100 hours and review it?" I'm sure like the people who reviewed that game were the only people at those sites who were going to review that game. Like it's just like kind of knowing your like base, and like which is fine. Like there are just kind of certain games you wouldn't want reviewed by other people, or just like odd perspectives. Because like one of the biggest takeaways that I'm surprised I'm not seeing more people talk about is I feel like not a single new fan jumped into Royal. I feel like everyone who played Persona 5 3 years ago just jumped into Royal again, and it didn't really do a great job in terms of sucking in new people. And the really weird thing about it is all the reviews kind of going back to why I think it was so high wasn't because, oh, they just kind of felt like it deserved it. It was more of, I felt like every review that I've looked at, sorry, not every review, for the majority, almost all the reviews were, I'm going to review the game based off of its review from 3 years ago. And it reviewed pretty favorably high. Like we had like a lot of 8s and a lot of 9s, but it wasn't like high 9s. And so they just took, oh, it has new content, so it's just a better game overall, as opposed to just reassessing everything with a new fresh coat of paint.
Yeah, that's why when Gnarly mentioned the fact that he had a review copy in our podcast that we did together, shoutouts to shoutouts to Gnarly. I specifically asked, the first question that I asked is, does it feel like a brand new experience, or does it just feel like Persona 5 with new content added? Because that's what's important to me when it comes to a release. You know what I'm saying? Like, Strange Journey Redux, I don't like it because it just feels like the same game, just spliced with a new character in a like slightly different plot, and I don't like it because it feels like it doesn't belong.
I wish with Strange Journey Redux, the worst part about it was the art change, and it really sucked because I remember, because that's such a big game with LaRue, especially with how much he really likes that game. When that game came out, I remember I had him on the podcast, and we talked about it. We were so worried about the music and the art changes and the no English voice acting being the biggest down. It was really sucked that it was just actually all these little changes, and like the new stuff is what affected the base game from shining through.
Exactly, because it's clear that you can make something good with a re-release. Catherine Fullbody did it pretty well.
I
I
mean,
mean,
no one is recommending anyone play Devil Survivor on DS. The 3DS versions are the best versions of those games.
yeah, I don't know why I brought up Full Body first, because Record Breaker is actually top 3 Megaten games for me. I love Devil Survivor 2. It's one of my favorites. Better than the first one. The first one's bad.
I mean, that's why they just redid the whole, hey, the world's going to end in Tokyo in 7 days thing, so let's just do it again better this time.
Yeah,
Plus, you got a sweet bunny hoodie.
the sequels to the spin-offs, the way I see it is that, like, Double Summoner 1, Devil Survivor 1, Raito 1, it's literally like, hey, let's make a game with a cool concept, and then the second one is like, hey, let's make a game with the same concept, let's make it not bad this time. Raito 1 is pretty panned. Devil Summoner 1 is a terrible video game that I never want to play ever again. I really love it, you know what I'm saying? But it's fucking awful.
Yeah, but then you got Soul Hackers.
Yeah, Soul Hackers, which is the greatest game of all time.
Someone posted on our Facebook group the opening song. I had not heard that, honestly, since like probably like 2014 or 15. And I was like, God, that song just still fucking slaps so hard.
The 3DS one or the original one?
Yeah, the 3DS. The original one itself is very, very good. But I mean, I just love both soundtracks.
I know what you mean. Don't worry about it.
By the way,
Like
it's sad that we live in a world where like because like in the grand scheme of like all their 3DS releases, it's like not even a question. Like the Soul Hackers one had the lowest budget because it really is just like has some new art, has some new elements to it, but it is definitely a lot more. Hey, we're taking the Sega Saturn version and just putting it on like a 3DS and having some new elements, whereas the other ones had a lot more changes and additions to it.
I kind of take it as like a because if you look at footage of the Sega Saturn version and compare it to the 3DS version, there are so many little changes that were like low key, like so just really good and like necessary. Like
Oh
the
yeah, like
graphics aren't
the
as
quality of life
yeah.
stuff alone is really good. It's like and obviously neither one of these were in English. It's like take the PlayStation version of Devil Summoner and then the PSP version. Like those changes are like super minor, but like just make everything a lot better for it. Which again, F's in the chat for us never getting DS properly.
Was there actually a PlayStation version of Devil Summoner 1?
I think so, but I'm probably fake fanning it. It's either I know it was at least I
It was
think
Soul Hackers, which got the PS1 version because I have the guide for that, like literally right here on my desk.
is that like one of those ones where they're like they like call it the perfect best guide. Those are like my favorite when it's like we have to like think of a good way to like make it sound like a
Yeah, there's like the
complete one.
ultimate guide, the perfect best guide, the it's like survival guide or some. There's like 50 different guides. You don't have any idea how many guides are for Digital Double Saga 1 and 2. There's
There's a lot of
so many.
weird random merch for it. Like the fact that the memory cards aren't even top 3 weirdest digital Devil Saga merch is very odd.
Do you know that there's a specific guide in Soul Hackers, the Saturn version, literally just to teach you about Demon Fusion?
I mean, I always find it kind of weird how few, at least for the Western games, actually kind of get into it. I get it because it's just a giant wall of text and stuff. That was one of the funny things of I remember when SMT4's edition came out, people were pissed that like it's technically half strategy guide for like Mikado, half art book, and the other half of it is like all about like demons and stuff and how to like the mechanics of the game works. People are like, oh,
Yeah.
should have been more of a strategy guide. I'd be like, no, actually, I like the fact that it actually gets into some of that more technical stuff more. I get it in terms of like you're already working with weird niches in terms of like strategy guides, especially because God, we're never gonna get anything even kind of close to that. By the way, shout out to anyone who ever imports um, that visuals plus a design book. They actually did the same thing for the Japanese release, but it's a hardcover and it is a really really nice hardcover version of that, which I need to pull out one of these days because there was some cool art that wasn't in both.
Yeah, I have for me personally, I have the original guidebook for Nocturne in Japan. I have the Sega Saturn Fusion guide because I thought it was the official guide, but it's just the Fusion guide. I have the for Soul Hackers, and I have the PS1 guide for Soul Hackers, which has everything. And that's actually one of my favorite guys. I can't see. I don't know what the fuck's going on in there. I don't speak Japanese. You know what I'm saying? But like, there is a section that literally separates every single demon by the country it comes from, not by the race or not by like the order of appearance. It's by country it comes from, and it's not old demons. It's all the new demons in the game, and I think that shit's so cool.
Yeah, the funny thing as well is with like those Japanese guides and stuff, unless they're specifically saying like they are licensed, there are a lot of like it's kind of weird because it's not like it was in the 90s with the West if there was like a lot of knockoff guides where they like were unofficial, but they were just not unofficially licensed, and obviously sometimes the unofficial ones were actually better than the others. By the way, just because I am a fake fan and I had to look this up, DS, sorry, because there are multiple DSs. Devil Summoner was Sega Saturn and then PSP. There was no PlayStation version.
Got
A
you.
PlayStation version was going to happen, but Devil Summoner just never actually did super well. But hey, if you want to feel really old, this Christmas Devil Summoner is going to be 25 years old.
We can have sex with Devil Summoner. Also, I'm pretty sure Devil Summoner did pretty well. It was good enough to get a sequel. It wasn't as good as Persona 1, but this is from a long time ago, so like bear with me here. Like the only time that I've ever seen like I don't want to say definitive sales numbers was just taking it at face value. There's like a Persona Central article comparing like this spin-off sales of other games and shit like that, and like Devil Summoner was around like the 400,000, 450,000 range, where Persona 1 is around like the 550,000. So it's like 100,000 less, but that's still considerably good for a Megaten spinoff on a console that it's never been on before.
Also, very important to realize, while it is sucked that we never got an English version of it, at least thank God Saturn games are dog cheap in Japan as opposed to Sega Saturn games in the West.
Yeah, don't buy them. If you see it at a store, don't buy it for anything over $10 if you see it, because my brother took me to a store in Japan and they literally have like gem mint condition, fucking perfect with everything in the box, copies of Devil Summoner and Soul Hackers for $10, and you bet your ass that I bought them right away.
Well, because
And they're
it's important to remember, if people don't know, that Sega Saturn games in the West were those long box CD cases that like they broke if you looked at them too long. They were so fragile. Well,
disgust.
They're like, I don't know. I've learned to have like a respect for them because I enjoy the look. It's like there is a nostalgia look to those really stupidly large cases, but it's like at the same time, that would have just made it like so much more expensive. Because I think if Soul Hackers and Devil Summoner did come out in like the late 90s, like copies nowadays would be like easily like $300.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen how much copies of Persona 2 go for in Persona 1?
I had a weird thing where I've noticed people, specifically like one of my people I follow on Twitter was he's basically just gotten the like bandwagon bug, so he picked up Persona 5 and has a whole bunch of Donald Trump bucks burning a hole in his pocket. And he's like, oh, I want to get all my Persona games. I'm like, now's a really terrible time to start collecting other games in the series because everyone's all writing off the fever pitch of P5R, and if you don't have those games, everyone's going onto eBay or whatever and just going to be getting totally like roasted on copies.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like for me, I like my collection. I've had moments of like wanting to get other games in my collection back. Like unfortunately, way back when I sold off my PSP ones. Trying to think of what other weird ones I'm like still kind of missing. Some of the PS2 stuff, but I'm not like super like because I know I'm not gonna play them on native hardware, and I'm not like super inclined for it. Whereas like my big collection thing now is like I mainly just collect Vita games, but like I'm still playing my Vita like every day. So like if I like went and like spent like $200 on like a really nice copy of Persona 2, it's like yeah, but like I'm probably not going to bust out the PlayStation 1 version of Persona 2.
Yeah, I don't think you would want to. That costs like $50 just to breathe in its direction.
As a kid I don't know why. I knew Persona what was it? I knew that Persona 2 Eternal Punishment was the sequel to a game. Like, but for whatever reason, as a kid in my mind, I thought the second disc it came with was Innocent Sin. So I remember coming home with my copy at the time and being like, "Oh man, let's bust in that bonus disc," because it came with 2 discs, and it'd be like it would make sense that they would sell it in a combo pack, but they never did.
Yeah.
Do you think there are people out there who are sad that Atlas, the only way to play Revelations Persona, like the only time they've ever released it digitally, is the really shitty PlayStation Classic? Because I was thinking about that recently. There's no other time they've re-released that, at least to my knowledge, in English.
I think people who want to play it have already emulated it by now, and people who bought the PlayStation Classic probably bought it only for that reason. You know, people who are interested in Persona 1 at least. So I don't think anyone's really too mad.
I mean, unless you bought the PlayStation Classic for $100 at launch, then you'd probably be mad.
Yeah, but that's kind of your fault for being stupid.
I feel like the PlayStation Classic was really weird because it felt like it was designed so that someone could look at that thing and go, I want to play this one game. Like, I didn't know anyone on there who was like going to be excited to play Cool Borders and then Oddworld.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would be that guy just because like I played like all those games growing up, but it's just one of those odd ones of like, who wants to play Revelations Persona on this thing? Like, I'm sure the only reason Revelations Persona got added on there was because Persona 5 sold so well.
Yeah, like
like seriously, think about it. They had it like that was their only chance to like have a English port version of Innocent Sin. Like, imagine if they did like a Star Fox 2 thing. Like, it would have like impressed like 5 people, but like, hey, we made an English ROM version of the PlayStation 1 version for Innocent Sin, and we put it on this really crappy system. I would have bought it just for that.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of cases of like PlayStation games that came out in the West and integral series sequels never came out outside of Japan.
It's just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like I think it's really funny because just bringing up the PlayStation Classic again, completely forgot to mention that in my fucking video about Persona 5 because I was talking about the other games that need re-releases and how, Persona 1 is like super expensive. Actually, I know I only talked about Persona 2, but Persona 1 on the original PlayStation is super fucking expensive. Revelations Persona. At least here it is. It's like the cheapest I saw was like $90, just
I was
fucking
gonna say
ridiculous.
like it's actually gone down in price, but it is way too much money.
Yeah, for Persona 1 Revelations Persona for $90 for half a video game, that's expensive to me. You know what I'm saying? But
With
like
some
I didn't
choice
even mention.
localization picks.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, being real, because the only time I've ever played Persona 1 was I watched somebody play the PSP version, like I watched like a Let's Play, but I played the original one with Brown, Sebek. I mean, obviously Sebek. Fuck. I was about to say like you can't play anything else. But like yeah, I played it by myself and it wasn't that bad. Like I didn't stop and think like, wow, this is really cringe. I didn't think it was like some 4 kids type shit.
No, because like I think like at the time, because like Revelation Persona was my first introduction to the series, which is so funny, not only to think about that in retrospect, but just due to the fact of like I forget that game was rated like I think it was KA, if not
Yeah, it
E.
is.
Okay, yeah, because I always forget if it's KA or E, but like it was just super like okay, well not a big deal, but then like Eternal Punishment is rated M. So
Hmm.
like that was the funny thing for me of having the only reason I could, because at the time I picked up Revelations in like probably 97 or so, like shortly after its release, but like I definitely, because like I was 3 when Revelations came out. I was born in 93. So like the only reason I got Eternal Punishment was because I told my dad, I was like, "Dad, this is a sequel to that other game that's E." He was like, how much worse could it be really?"
I like how I think the like the tagline on the back of the box is literally like proof that demons do exist because I know that was the big slogan on all the posters. That would be really funny if he's just like, how bad could it be? Just doesn't care to turn around and see that it's just talking about demons the entire time. Like, damn. All
No.
right.
I have an infamous story of I rented Maximo, that Capcom PlayStation 2 game,
Yeah.
and I had to return it like within hours of playing it because at the dinner table I was bragging about how cool the opening was. And like Maximo was just kind of like a whatever like action platformer for the PS2, but I was like just explaining to my mom how you had to sign a contract with the devil to like go rescue your girlfriend or whatever, and then she's like, that's satanic worship. We got to bring it back. And then I just slowly hide all my demonic RPGs under the bed. Just hope, all right, we're never talking about these games again.
I know exactly how you feel.
It's really funny, like the double-edged sword that Atlas West has of they have all of these interesting themes and pretty dark stuff, especially with their earlier titles of SMT and even Persona, with like especially like just like the summoning mechanic in Persona 3 alone of like they were so worried someone like was gonna call in about like what the hell you're shooting yourself in the head to like use these attacks, but because they're so niche, the only people who were buying those games were people who weren't gonna get outraged anyway. Like it was so unpopular with the mainstream that they could never get in trouble for the stuff that would make any other mainstream game like shit their bricks.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. It was probably the worst time they could have possibly released it. I actually don't understand why.
For
I
P3,
just no. Just for all the Persona games in general. I just
every
think
Persona game has had a bad release date.
pretty much. I'm like, Persona 1 and 2 came around the time where everyone's freaking out about Pokemon being demonic when there's literally a game like is actually demonic. Talks about summoning, fighting demons and shit like that. Persona 3 had the whole like shooting yourself in the head thing, which is a little out there to say the least.
I gotta say though, thinking of releases, I will say most of their release dates have always just kind of been whatever. I always thought P5, like OG P5, released at a really bad time because remember that was like 2 weeks after the Switch was out. No, not two
Yeah.
weeks because Switch was out early March and it was first week of April, so about a month after Switch came out. One of my big things with it was like, what the? I got this fucking new system. Why would I not be playing this?
You think
And then
that's bad? Persona 5 The Real literally came out on the same day as Nocturne.
wait, hold on, what?
Yeah,
So
February
not
20th.
so Nocturne came out. Oh, okay. Wait, hold on. No,
I'm
so
pretty
you're
sure something else happened on February 20th. I
no,
remember being
you're
really
you're
mad
you're
about it.
getting it confused with Scramble because
Oh, yeah,
February
yeah, my
20th was
bad, my bad,
Scramble.
my bad.
No,
Yeah,
yeah, you're good.
Scramble.
That's okay. My one of my things though I was thinking about actually good release dates is any of the ones that have had late November releases. I think Persona Q released at a great time. It was like 2014 in November, and 2012 November is when we got P4G. Like those ones are really great because it was like after all the big AAA stuff had released, and so you could just spend all your winter break playing those. So those were easy pickups.
Yeah.
Also, I cannot believe we live in a world where copies of Persona Q is like rare. It's like so odd to be like that. That's like copies of like a game like I never would think would be rare, but it's like I guess it's just like
Why would you ever want to play it?
oh dude, no way. Like I will never make people feel bad if they don't like Persona Q just because it's so different. But like for me, as someone who doesn't even like the Etrian Odyssey series a lot, like my favorite Etrian Odyssey games are the Mystery Dungeon spin-offs, and I don't even like super duper love Mystery Dungeon games. So it's always really odd with me. Like I don't play mainline Etrian Odyssey, but I love Persona Q and I love Etrian Mystery Dungeon, so it's like very odd for me. But like that crossover is like just really popular. And
My
especially
big issue with Persona Q is that my problem with Persona 3, 4, and 5 is that the dungeons aren't fun. They're literally SP sponges where you just run into a bunch of enemies, and the only way you can like feasibly beat them without wasting like 5 minutes every time is to use all your SP. You leave and you come back and you do the same thing. It's not fun. Persona Q is literally that, the video game.
yeah, like
There's
the
nothing else but that.
design of the levels definitely leave a lot to be desired, especially just because they do kind of drag on. I think it definitely gets a pass though from a lot of people on two fronts. For me, the one that I definitely like forgive a lot of it for is it has like one of the best soundtracks in the series, just because they've really
Persona Q?
yeah, Persona Q and Q2 have like some of the best like OSTs
You hear
in them.
my voice crack? That's how ridiculous that shit is. Don't ever say that around me ever again.
I
You mean just Persona in general, right?
oh yeah, I'm not like saying of the entire SMT one
Even
because like
then, you're still wrong because
no
Persona 2 exists. And
no.
Persona soundtrack tier list for Persona games is 1, Eternal Punishment, Innocent Sin, 4, 5, 3, and I don't care about any of the other ones.
See, that's like one of the weird ones of it as well. Of have you actually heard Q2 soundtrack?
Fuck no. No,
Man,
not at all.
it's really good. Unfortunately, no one fucking played that game, so a lot of people haven't heard it. I still
I
need to
think the
actually do a
only
playthrough.
thing from the game that I've heard was the instrumental version of Last Surprise, because my biggest gripe with Persona 5, something I'll never forgive Atlas for, is that there was no official release of that instrumental cut of Last Surprise used in the second trailer. You know what I'm saying? It
Oh
was
yeah.
really cool, and I liked it. I'm pretty sure they'll never release it because it's literally like just a sequenced version of
By
the
the way,
song.
this is the trailer that was included with the
Dancing
Japanese
games.
copies of Dan, right? Yeah, I have that
Yeah.
Blu-ray. That was man, that was back when Atlas marketing was like great. Of like, hey man, you gotta buy this spin-off to see this
That's
trailer.
my
I
favorite thing
loved
about
that.
Atlas games, bro. Like the Digital Devil Saga commercial and Nocturne, the Persona 2 Innocent Sin demo in Soul Hackers PS1. Like there's nothing better than that, you know what I'm saying? Like you play one game, there's a trailer for an entirely another fucking game. So if you like this one, you're definitely going to like the other one. It's perfect marketing. I don't understand why they don't do that no more.
Would have been really smart. Unfortunately, their like production timelines are now I don't even know if it's even fair to say safe like safely been done this on purpose, but like they're all so spaced out. I think the closest we've ever gotten to that is like the last 6 months. Because like think about it, in the last 6 months, we've had a worldwide release for Royal, Scramble, and Tokyo Mirage Sessions. Like they've never had that many games come out that close to each other. And obviously they're all so spread out on kind of different systems. It'd be really weird. Like I don't think I don't think there's a way to like put a demo for Scramble on Royal and TMS without people being like, huh, okay. Just because they're all so different, you know? Like, even if you
Yeah.
like TMS, that doesn't mean you're going to like P5 and vice versa, especially with Scramble.
In 2016, we got Apocalypse and Persona 5 in Japan, at least. For American people, you had to wait even longer.
Dude, the best year was 2014 easily. Because that was the year that had Dan, Q, Ultimax, and I think something else, or at least something got announced. But I
Yeah,
remember that year was like crazy in terms of how much. 2012 was also pretty good because that had Arena and Golden, but obviously that was just the P4 only kind of days. But this sort of goes into one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, and going back into your YouTube channel and stuff. So, at what point did you go from I'm going to be talking about other YouTube channels to I want to talk about Megaton, and like what sort of got that started into where you are now?
I've always talked about video games on my YouTube channel. Just the videos are deleted now. I unfortunately don't have the same PC as I did back when I made those videos. But yeah, like I used to do Smash Brothers videos. When I say that my SMT4 video, I originally started it in like 2013 when I first played the game, and I've always wanted to go back and remake it. So I always like to say that like this is like a 5 year in the making video. And yeah, I made videos about actually. I'm just gonna make sure there's no one around here. I actually made a video about Persona Q. It's like the first time I played it, and I reviewed it, and it was so bad that I had a little skit where I took the DS out back and I shot it. Like it was infected with how boring the game was, so I had to put it down.
See,
You know.
I don't even like get mad at that just because like it's such a departure for that series. Oh, and going back because we got on that tangent because of the music with it. Another reason that game gets a super big pass for a lot of people is because that was the first RPG crossover. Obviously, not a lot of people are like fighting game fans. Like there was some crossover of people like me who love RPGs and love fighting games, but like if you liked Ultimax, you really liked it. If you weren't feeling it, like no one was getting sucked into Arena and Ultimax just for the story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which I think is kind of unfortunate because that's kind of like the closest you'll ever get to a sequel to that game.
Well, are you talking about in terms of like the sequel of like P4 and P3?
Yeah, yeah.
See, I have like mixed feelings of it because it's really weird. Like the presentation and the idea of the story, I think an Arena is really bad. Like I've always like told people the best part of Ultimax's story was never even localized in English. It's like the manga adaptation of Ultimax is the only good story of Ultimax. Because the guy who decided to write it, he also does one of the P5 mangas now, the Memento Missions one. Uh, he decided, like, okay, obviously there's a fighting game tournament going around, but that's like the least interesting part of the whole story. So he just made it all about like Sho's really fucked up background and like what his story was like. So it was all just based from the villain's perspective instead of just doing I think the most interesting part of Persona 4 Ultimax actually in terms of story was Adachi's DLC story, which is like less than an hour long and sadly like doesn't it, yeah, it was DLC as well. I was trying to think about it. It was free DLC, but it was one of those ones of like there are so many caveats to that. Like I can't really say that like that is a good recommendation of like, oh, check out his DLC story. Like no one's gonna do that these days.
Yeah, I mean, you could always just look up a video because I feel like the people who are interested in shit like that have already watched it.
So for you though, in terms of like what you're doing now, obviously you just did your Persona 5 video for it, and you were pretty much inspired by that, similar to LaRue with his like hashtag and like Persona. Oh my god, I forgot
Okay,
the dumb
okay.
hashtag's name.
Yeah,
Break
break
free
free
Persona.
persona.
Jesus.
Listen, we have to talk about this. Okay. Voice cracking because I'm getting a little nervous. I'm not actually nervous. That was just really bad. But
That cringy guy in the Twitter video whose name I always forget and don't need to know.
yeah,
He's gonna break in somewhere and be like, "You talk about my video, bro."
I'm such a nice guy. You're so okay. I started working on that video in December. Like literally, it was on the back burner because I had been working on my SMT4 video, but like literally I think I started in November or December. That's literally how long it takes me to make videos is that multiple other people started, that's why I always feel like I end up rushing my shits because every single time I have an interesting topic, I go in on it and I like to do as much research as I possibly can. Try to be really fair about it, get like an open view of it, and also splicing in my own, you know what I'm saying? My own like
Give your own
opinions
feel
on
to
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
honestly how I've been with my P5 review of like I eventually got to a point with Persona 5 Royal of like, okay, I know I want to do a review. I'm obviously like I'm kind of O1, and if not just for the fact that it would be an interesting piece because I haven't really done a written review proper in a while. And I was sitting there and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take longer with this and just kind of go a lot more like kind of in depth and because like the way I eventually got to it was even after all of my playing with it, it was like I could do like a 10-minute cookie cutter review of Persona 5 Royal without even really playing it. But it's like I just want to kind of give it my own spin and just like really just kind of spit, shine, and polish it. Because like let's be real, a Persona 5 roller review coming out now or 2 weeks ago or even 2 weeks from now is not going to make that much of a difference in terms of people having played the game or going to play the game.
Yeah, I always hate that gigantic rush, but at the same time, I kind of understand it now because what I was trying to say, I'm not trying to say you interrupted me or nothing, but like what I was trying to say is that I always spend too much time trying to be fair about things because, and I feel like I do end up rushing things because by the time it's say like halfway done, like the writing process like halfway done, everyone's already caught on to what I'm getting at. So I have this unique perspective of something like, hey, I don't really like this game, but I also like the other games, and nobody else is ever commenting on these things, so let me start doing it. And it's not a unique opinion anymore. I'm not saying that I thrive on, feeling unique because I think differently from other people, but I always think I feel nice when I get those comments like, you know what, I never saw things that way. Thank you so much. You know what I'm saying? But like, I always feel like I need to rush so I can get that out
What's
because,
what was the catalyst for making the video in like November, December?
um, honestly, I was just kind of sick and tired of hearing people talk about it because that's when I started interacting with people uh, who make persona community pages, to put it nicely. You know what I'm saying? That's when I started getting like word of those people existing because I still had Twitter around that time. Rest in peace, by the way, in my Twitter
You're a
accounts, all
Quibi
of them.
man now. You're on the Quibi these days.
Yeah, I'm on that Quibi type Instagram, and I'm actually kind of upset that I'm banned from Twitter. I feel like that's like a death blow to my outreach. I can't reach out to people
Twitter hates
without Twitter.
devs.
Yeah, Twitter just hates. And my skin's different from other people too, so maybe Jack hates me. You know what I'm saying? But
Is it purple?
yeah, actually,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm Thanos.
Jack hates Persona 1. That does make sense.
Yeah, I'm Thanos.
You got a
But
mole
what was
chin?
I gonna say? Yeah, actually, what was I about to say? Yeah, it was until that started happening because I always say like I don't interact with nobody from the Megaten community. I think the last time I did was like when I was on Reddit from like 2016 to like 2017 or some shit like that. And like that was probably the worst time. Everyone there just has a stick up their ass. They're so pretentious. And I think it's really funny now because you look at anybody who like argues with me or says things about me on social media because people send this shit to me all the time and I think it's so annoying. It's like I don't care what people say about me or my videos or whatever they may think of me because like if I cared about what people said on the internet, I'd probably just leave. But like it's really funny that the people that I make fun of all the time from just like my years where I did interact with the Megaten community are now the people that try to talk shit. But yeah, I don't interact with those people, and I didn't know how bad it was until around that time when I started, going out of my way to talk to people like LaRue and interact with him, and then I met you guys and I met Gnarly, and so obviously talking to you guys and following you guys would bring in other people that you guys interact with. So I do see those Persona community members. Wink. I'm winking at my screen right now. But like, yeah, it just pissed me off. So I was like, fuck it, bro. Like, I'm gonna go in on it because I usually just, I made my one video before in like 2016, said my piece, that was it, and that was done. But then I started to not like that video because I was trying way too damn hard to be fair to the game and like be really soft with my criticism. So I was just like, fuck it, it's the perfect opportunity. I can spend 5 minutes talking about Persona 5 and then the other part about the people that I actually don't like. It's a win-win for me.
I appreciated the fact of even though like I really didn't agree with a lot of your points of like criticism for P5 just because from just like base opinion and stuff. I liked that even though the like really the thesis of your video was like the community aspect and all the bullshit that had been happening recently. It was nice that you gave the perspective like, hey, here's where I stand with this game. Because a lot of times, like, I hate when you, like, see videos of people, like, talking about the community or a situation going around a community. And then you kind of eventually get to that point when listening to them and be like, man, you don't even, like, care about this. You're just, like, talking about it to talk about it. Like, think of, like, all those channels who were, like, reporting on, like, the Persona Switch stuff. And it was like, do you guys, like, even care? Or are you guys just kind of talking about this because people are talking about this?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Cause like it's like it's just like a train that people ride. You know what I'm saying? Like in a year, people won't be riding Persona like this. It'll die down until 6 comes out, and then it'll be a brand new people, and then those Persona 5 fans are gonna be like, oh, these new Persona fans are so.
I have to say
What the hell,
though,
dude? These people are so annoying. They haven't even played any other games.
I have to say it's really
Sorry.
odd. No, you're good. I don't know. It's always really odd because there was that era for a long time of people acting like P4 fans were like the worst fans ever, and I kind of just expected all of those complaints and the way people like acted about how those really close-minded people who just played 4 and didn't really want to play anything else, and you were lucky if they wanted to even touch P3. It was kind of funny of like I didn't really think that was going to happen with P5, and I would really love to like find out what was like the striking point for it. Like was it just because it was like a PS4 game? Like was it just because of like the music and the presentation? Like I'd be curious like what drew all of these I don't know, like people into the fandom, but just the point of like I've never understood the idea of like, guys, I love Persona
I
5.
think it's be I think it's because Persona has always had that reputation of being a really stylistic, really cool cult classic JRPG, and now that they see this new games coming out and everyone's, paired, this shit is oozing with style. I actually started that as a meme back when the first
Oozing.
couple of trailers came out, and like it's like oozing with style, and I think it's really fucking hilarious how people like unironically start saying that now when they don't
It's,
even know where it
but like
comes
think
from.
about it, like we don't have this with other series. Like I love Final Fantasy. I don't fucking see people talking on social media be like, get this Crystal Chronicles fag out of here. He's talking about the Crystal Bringers again. Like no one's like dogging on the subgroup genres of Final Fantasy. You don't see the Trails of Cold Steel fans be like, get these PSP trash out of here. We're playing the fucking mobile versions or whatever. Like you have like all these series that are like so different and like have different subsects just like SMT and Persona, but like it's so odd that like this one in particular has like you said such a bad reputation, and it's not true. Like a lot of the interactions I have with the community, I see the negative stuff through other people complaining about the negative stuff. Like I never see it like firsthand myself after so many years really. Like I know
Yeah.
it's there, but like it's definitely like a good example of the vocal minority. But it's just so weird how like that rhetoric has just continued of just like no, P1 and 2 fans are elitist, P3 and 4 fans are nostalgia grabbing, and P5 fans are bandwagoners, and anyone who plays SMT is just like a Dark Souls tryhard.
Yeah, I think it comes from the fact of, like I always bring up, I think it just comes from the fact of ignorance. You know what I'm saying? Like people who like Crystal Chronicle aren't saying like, oh, you Final Fantasy 7 kids are so stupid. Why don't you actually play like a better game or something like that? It's more like Persona 5 people saying, hey, this is so cool. This is so cool. This is so cool. And we're like, we know. Have you considered trying all this other cool stuff out? And they don't want to. So they just go, oh, you're elitist. Stop telling me that this thing's bad. Like, no one's saying that it's bad. I'm the only person that I've seen so far that has actually said that Persona 5 is bad. No one's saying that
Definitely
the
not
game.
true. Trust me.
I mean, this just like I said, I don't interact with these people. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm the only person with some semblance, some petty, whatever disgusting sense of an audience you want to assume that I have, saying that it's bad. I'm the only vocal person that I know of that says that the game is bad. And everyone else is literally just saying, hey, that's awesome. Try these other games. They're cool too. And people just go, nope, fuck you. You're elitist and gatekeeping. See you later.
See,
It's
man,
like,
I loved like when you get the opposite of those experiences. Like, I don't know if you've ever had those moments where it be like online or in person. Like, obviously, you don't like do a ton of like interacting with the community online, but like when you do have those like success stories of like, I had a friend whose first game ever was Arena, and now his favorite game is like a tie between Innocent Sin and Soul Hackers, and it's like that's so
good
cool.
man.
Like
Good
that's like
man.
so cool that like this series can bring people in those ways for it, but like you just never hear the success stories as loud as all the people who just kind of rag on it. But it goes into one of the things I wanted to bring up about your channel, and I didn't actually know about some of your other deleted videos. Do you ever worry, like let's just say if someone looks at your channel right now, your SMT videos are pretty much all wholly positive, and anything really relating to Persona is kind of like negative. Are you worried that just like on the outset, it just kind of looks like I don't like anything new Persona? Or do you not
I
mind
want
if
that
that's
to
the...
be I want that to be the idea because between you and me, I am streaming Persona 4 solely for the fact that I'm making a video about how I learned to love Persona 4 from 2016 up until a couple years ago. And spoiler alert, it is literally fighting innocent or not innocent sin, fighting eternal punishment as my favorite Persona game. And I deliberately lied in my video about Persona 5 saying that I don't like those games. I just want that vision so that people can come into my videos or just look at my channel and instead of, listening to what I have to say, just insta go, you are nitpicking and biased and elitist and gatekeeping. Bye-bye, you suck, eat my ass, die in a fire. Because I think it's hilarious. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so obvious people who listen to what I have to say and respectfully disagree or people who just insta look for something to point out and act as if that invalidates everything that you've possibly said. I want people to think I'm an elitist. And from the reaction that I've gotten to the video, literally every single negative response has either been, oh, SMT is just as bad, which is something that I've never denied, or you're just an elitist, which I think is hilarious. I could ask for nothing better.
Now, one tiny question, and one that'll get us into a much bigger topic probably. What are you playing? What is your version of P4? I'd be really curious.
The original one, because Golden sucks ass.
Whoa, this is my Persona Q moment you just had earlier. That is such a bad opinion in my take. Like that is so funny. I have to ask this though. You know what's like really great is like Persona 4 Golden is the only case I can think of every voice actor change is pretty much universally agreed upon that like everyone likes the voice acting change in Golden, but like I've never seen a game do that again like successfully. Like it's always kind of hit or miss, but I've never seen anyone be like, man, I really miss the days when Kakashi was Teddy. Like, you guys miss like horny 40-year-old man Teddy?
Yeah, honestly, for a lot of the voice actors that aren't Matthew Mercer and what's her name, Erin Fitzgerald,
Mm-hmm.
I could not tell you the difference between the voices.
Let me try and think. Golden, yeah, Golden's only voice change was actually Chie and Teddy, because Matthew Mercer didn't start until the P4 Animation's second season.
Yeah, I thought that was really weird in my opinion because like I actually the Persona 4 anime is one of the only animes that I've watched. I watched Dragon Ball, Naruto, Bleach, that Hero Show, Samurai Champloo, and the Persona 4 anime, and the Devil Survivor 2 one.
I was just gonna say I recommend, not because it's good. The Devil Survivor 2 anime is interesting solely for the fact of how I think it's a great example of taking an awesome game and making it just one of the worst paced adaptations I've ever seen. Like as an
It,
SMT fan, I like to watch it just because like it's so novel. Of like it's the only newest example of like a SMT anime we really have, and it's weird how it just
yeah,
kind of died after that. Like because that show bombed pretty bad in Japan.
yeah. But what was I gonna say?
You were talking
I
about why you
agreeing.
picked the OG over Golden.
Oh yeah. Just to add on to your point, I think it's really funny. Like the Devil Survivor 2 anime is a literal example of how you take an amazing game and pick out every single wrong thing to make an anime about. It does absolutely nothing. It points out nothing that's good about Devil Survivor 2, and it just makes it about all the stupid shit. Like I think it's so weird. Like you said, it's really badly paced. I agree. How many episodes was it? Like
13.
12?
No, it's 13.
13.
Yeah.
That's so stupid. I don't know.
I
I'm
will
not saying it
say
needs
the
more
English
episodes.
dub version of Black Frost is probably one of the funniest, most unintentionally hilarious things I've ever seen dubbed in my life.
Isn't it where they just lower the pitch so it's just like
Yeah, and then if you go back to the Japanese one, it's still just the normal like Black Frost voice. So like it's just like, did anyone
Yeah.
listen to the original version of Jack Frost?
I think they just assume big man, deep grumbly voice.
I love it too, especially because we have two English voice dubs now, like the game from Record Breaker and the English class. Like there was And I have like nothing against the dub. Like I definitely get like an ADV 90s dub vibe from the DS2 anime, whereas
Yeah.
like the game for Record Breaker, I'm like, okay, I'm glad I'm playing this 90-hour RPG with this voice cast, because if it was flipped around, I would hate this game.
The only issue that I have is also, yeah, I just think it's really funny how every single character sounds like they're in their like 40s, but the only person I'd probably replace in Record Breaker is the chick who does Morgana. Just remove Irie in general. Just I I don't really like her. That's just my personal opinion. I hate that voice actress. And the person who does Futaba, I don't like them. Both of them.
I'll
It
say
seems like
I'll say this. I'm actually normally not a huge fan of because she kind of is like sort of typecasted of like I'm preppy anime girl. She actually did a surprisingly good job as Jessie in FF7 remake, just because they actually gave her a multifaceted character, and she's not just like a one hit, like a one trick like meme pony like Futaba.
Mhm. I just think it's annoying because I don't think it's even their fault. I just think it's the fact that the direction for every single role that they've played in the games that I've played is literally just do this. Like, hey, you remember this character? Do that again.
Yeah,
And
like
you know,
voice
next game it's
direction never really gets brought up enough for like bad voice acting examples. Like a good example is I really love Nolan North as a voice actor. I think
yeah.
he has maybe like 5 characters he's done great, because a lot of the voices he gets typecasted as is just fucking Nolan North.
Yeah, my favorite Nolan North performance is the pumpkin from TF2.
My favorite Nolan North example, and this is definitely ironically, is Saints Row 4, because this is that peak Nolan North as Nolan North era, where the voice options for all the males was male 1, male 2, male 3, ironically Troy Baker, and then male 4 voice was just Nolan North.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's also like what's his name? Troy Baker is Vincent and Kanji. Like the only difference between the two is that Kanji yells sometimes.
You know what's sad, and this might be like a hot take? I think
Yeah.
Kanji is a deeper character than Vincent, and that's coming from someone uh, who actually likes Catherine. Like I actually love Catherine a whole lot. Unfortunately, just because of that, is like I've never like thought to myself like Vincent is a interesting situation more than an interesting protagonist. Like I think the characters around him and the choices you as the player make are interesting, but I've never had moments of like, wow, what great character growth. Like the only real kind of surprising moment I ever had with Vincent was when the character reacts to finding out Ren's secret. I was like, oh, that's actually surprising, especially just because of the background that Studio Zero has in their depiction of not male or female romance options.
Yeah, I think Catherine as a game actually thrives because the characters aren't really too deep or in the same vein very likable. Like the whole game revolves around Vincent and his friends, but they don't really develop. They just more react to what happens around them. And that's not too bad because kind of like SMT games, they just kind of exist to push certain narratives, like certain characters push like, oh, freedom, blah blah blah, and the other ones are like, oh, marriage, tie the knot. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I like Catherine's cast because they're fucking scumbags, but they
Yeah,
feel
like
like
they're
actual
weird.
people.
Like yeah, they're
They feel like
weird real
longtime
people.
friends.
Like that's why what the ending is so satisfying when you do on the last day of going to the bar and you see the people who you helped survive their nightmares. Like that's such a satisfying feeling of like these people you kept checking in on, even though like they're like very like much like caricatures of types of people of like they I don't know, just like for me of like all those moments, especially when I replayed like Full Body again, was just like, man, I really like felt good that like my choices in checking up on these people like helped to like save their lives.
Yeah. I love shit like that where the NPC dialogue changes as like the story progresses, or like
Which
you
is
just
really kind of sad, because like I wish I liked and I don't know if it's just like a size thing, but like I love the whole cast of Catherine.
yeah.
I could not care about 50% of the side characters in Persona 5. Like those two, like the old ladies, like the old lady twins, like those that's great. Like I don't need their backstory, but they're in it like just enough to be like, okay, check in with them for a creepy fortune, keep going. Fortune teller lady in Persona 5, I could not care less. Her perk could be to literally blow me for 5 minutes in real life and I would still not care about her story.
Yeah, I think it's good because, like I said, they present a lot of different perspectives on the same issue. And it's nice because that's what you want when you're in a situation like that. Not necessarily specifically that, but if you're in a hard pressed situation, the one thing you don't want from people is, oh, I'm sure whatever happened, things will be okay. It's usually like people actually giving you their genuine opinion. And that's what I like when it comes to things like that. I feel people are so used to like anime shit, like side characters being anime shit where they just, spout out flavor text in games like Persona 3, 4, and 5 and even games like Nocturne, the NPCs don't really say much. Digital Devil Saga and Devil Survivor, like just the conversations that you have with like a lot of the side characters don't really amount to anything. So when I play a game like SMT4, when I play a game like Catherine, where the side characters actually matter, it makes me feel like I'm a part of their world, and that's the best thing you could possibly ask for in a video game. You actually feel like you're a tangible part of the world that's actually doing something and interacting with people and not just reading text on a screen.
You know what's sad? A common complaint with Persona, and even to a lesser extent, SMT games, not that much of a lesser extent, mind you, is their over reliance on setting, and how the big complaint by a lot of people is usually, why are we always high schoolers? Why are we always high schoolers? Blah blah blah. When in actuality, I think like Atlas and a lot of their subsect of developers and stuff, a lot of their greatest examples of games are examples where they're not just in Japan or like Tokyo to be precise. Like
Yeah,
when you think of Catherine, remember Catherine doesn't take place in Japan. That's not in Tokyo. Like technically it's a space colony, but like it is a ambiguous, like you are just like living in a urban environment, and that already makes it feel different than Tokyo. Like I feel like we've almost kind of gotten to this point. I don't know whether it's just like as fans or where like they feel like we like are fetishizing like Tokyo to a point where like, oh, it's so amazing and awesome. Because like, well, I love the Tokyo twist in SMT4. I would just have easily have been hyped about Mikado leading into like another state. Like say it fucking popped up and like you went to Egypt and stuff. Like it
yeah.
didn't have to be Tokyo. And one of the things like I wish would get brought up more, it's like honestly, like right now, if I said, "Hey, what's one thing you're worried about with SMT5, Dad?" What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
SMT4 apocalypse writing.
Okay, my biggest one has always been this: why is it in Japan again? Why again? The fifth game in this series, we are just in Japan again. It's so boggling to me. And obviously, it's been like a long time, and but it's just one of those things of like the trailers we've seen for it are cool because conceptually stuff, but like at the same time, it is just another post-apocalyptic Tokyo.
Yeah.
Like how that doesn't get brought up more always kind of like surprises me. And like honestly, this is not even a joke. This is actually very real. My favorite examples of Atlas as a developer using Japan and Tokyo specifically are Devil Survivor 2 and Tokyo Mirage Sessions, because that is a tight cast with a not super long time frame of what you're doing in the city. It is not about being in Tokyo. It takes place in Tokyo. TMS more so is like it's Tokyo in the terms of its idolization world and showing everything through the idol lens, whereas
Uh-huh.
like Devil Survivor 2 could take place anywhere. That doesn't really matter. It's about the characters and what they're doing, not more so they're like, "Oh my god, guys, we got to go to Kichijoji." It's just kind of like no, like that's more about like the story and stuff. Whereas like I hated like when seeing in the marketing for Persona 5 Royal, it was like small town heroes, big time robberies or whatever. And like I asked this question in our Facebook group, and this was a real like question. It's like, is Ren from a small town? Like it what does that matter? Like it's not like it's Persona 4. Like whether you love or hate Persona 4, like I personally love the fact that it was like playing in the boonies. That was like such a cool little twist for it. But it was just one of those things of just like the setting of Persona 5 like does not impress me because it's not like it's Yakuza. It's not deep. Like when they added Kichijoji into Royal, it's like the most detailed level in the whole game by a wide margin, but that's still a place that has four shops, one mini game, a jazz club, and a temple. You're not going to be spending 17 hours in Kichijoji. You're going to be spending 10 minutes there every night.
Yeah, 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 I know what you mean.
So it's stuff like that kind of like is the weird stuff I wish would kind of get brought up more, especially just because like the shining examples of like games people really really fucking love. It's just like, man, again, I've never met a single person who, whether you love Strange Journey or like hate Strange Journey, I've never seen like shown someone the setting of that game and they're like, ah, that's boring. Like that's a cool setting. Like people like stuff like that. Like the fact that it is like a Japanese twist on RPGs and The Thing and like all like the just like the crazy like settings and stuff for it, which I will say was makes me a little less excited because the new sort of environment they decided to add with Redux was kind of just whatever. But
Yeah, kind of when my big thing is that every single SMT game has taken Tokyo and then also like spliced in its own otherworldly environment. The Diamond Realm in SMT1, the Millennium Kingdom in 2, and the underground shits in SMT3. It's, the Wasteland, Tokyo, it's the Vortex world. Everything about that was otherworldly, and I liked it that much. Tokyo is in SMT4 is very actually post-apoc. It's something that I want to explore because it looks so different from how it actually is. But for Japanese players, obviously, it's still pretty accurate to how it actually is. But then, things like the future, the monochrome forest, Purgatorium, Lucifer Castle, all that shit, it's nice. My only issue is what you said. If it ends up being just Tokyo again, I'm like, I don't really mind, but if it doesn't do anything like the other SMT games have, that's probably where I draw an issue. Because I do agree that Strange Journey is like one of my favorite settings in an SMT game, but what I really like is how every other like numbered SMT title, I really just love seeing how they, what they add to it, what otherworldly environments that they add, what vision that they had to add to the game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like even little twists like the Raito games, even though they're not perfect, like the fact that they have a different time period adds so much to the characters and the settings and fuck the wardrobes. Like just changing the time makes those games stand out so much more. Like imagine the Raito games just being like, oh, just takes place in like the late 80s.
Yeah,
Because
I
like
know what you mean.
part of like my favorite part of Raito 2 is just like the fact of like, man, like that's like such, even now, like an area of like time we don't really see like shown off in Japan very much at all, and which is like really really cool, especially with their like military depiction of the world.
Yeah, I love it so much. I think my favorite thing about Strange Journey is that it doesn't matter where it takes place. Like, who the fuck cares that if it's in Antarctica? I feel like it wouldn't have made a difference if it was in Japan or fucking Zimbabwe. You
Yeah,
know what
like
I'm saying?
Strange
Like,
Journey could have happened in Area 51 for all intents and purposes.
yeah, maybe it might happen. Maybe that's why we didn't get in during the Area 51 raid. They were just hiding the whole.
Everybody bring out your DSs. We're strange journeying in there. Let's get our demonic armor on. They can't stop
Yeah,
us.
I'll go with you, Spencer. We'll hold hands.
Thank you.
But
My God.
yeah, my favorite thing about SMT is the way it takes that very generic, because before SMT was very unique by having a modern day setting. Now it seems like a commonplace thing with like games like Persona and other games that kind of have that, modern day setting or semi-futuristic setting. My favorite things is how it deviates from that. That's always been my favorite part about the SMT franchise. I fucking hate JRPGs. It's like literally one of my least favorite art like genres ever, but it's really funny because my favorite games of all time are JRPGs, if that makes sense at all. Like SMT and Persona and its spin-off series and series like Paper Mario and shit like that, and to some lesser extent Dragon Quest 9, because that's also one of my favorite games of all time.
What?
What's up?
Wow. 9?
Yeah.
That's like not even a bad game. I've never heard anyone pick 9 as like their favorite DQ game. Like,
really?
Was that your first?
Yeah.
That might be why. Like, I have nothing against 9, but wow. Like, it's really funny when it comes to like Dragon Quest, it's always like 8, 3, and 5.
I've played 8, I've played 6, I've played 7, 9.
I feel like you would
11.
Hate 7.
I like. It's just a JRPG.
Well,
There's literally nothing bad I can say about it.
7's weird constraint is it's way too long, and every island you visit feels like its own game, and that's not a compliment. That's just like, it
Yeah.
feels like every island is just its own game, and you're like, by the time you're getting on the boat and going to the next, like, God, credits haven't rolled yet. Like, you could tell, like, when they were making Dragon Quest VII, they were like, guys, we've taken 8 years to make this game. It has to be 300 hours long.
That's how I felt about 9, and honestly, that's like one of my favorite things about it is that it just doesn't fucking end. Like there's so
That's really
many.
interesting. See, 9 for me was like, I don't know, I never really got into like the multiplayer aspect of it, or even like the dungeon sharing, and I just feel like the story felt like, when like you say an MMO has a really good story, and unless you're talking about like Final Fantasy 14 nowadays, a good MMO story does not translate to a good story, is like how the best I could describe DQ9 for me.
I think like the main story is fine because it's traditional Dragon Quest fare, but like for me, my favorite part, because I always say this, my favorite part of any RPG is the exploration aspect and the progression of Dragon Quest IX or just most Dragon Quest games in general. You look at the world map, you're like, hey, I wonder what's on that island over there. Once you get the boat, damn, I can finally go to that island. You know what I'm saying? And then you explore other stuff, and it doesn't even have anything to do with the main story. You just find an entirely different side quest chain or something that has its own unique story and things like that. And that's like one of my favorite things. Or maybe it's just an island with some unique enemies or a treasure chest or something. Or one of my other favorite things is when you start getting the magic keys and then the ultimate keys, all those treasure chests that you saw that you couldn't open or those doors that you couldn't open, it's all like clicking and it's like a nice sense of progression that I actually like. And Dragon Quest IX just doesn't end. Like I said, you get the main story, the after story, then you got the dungeons, and then the auto-generated dungeons have their unique bosses, and then you go up the tiers of bosses, and then the max tier drops like the legacy bosses, and then you level those up. It's just so much to do. I actually 100% in that game. Like if you
That is very commendable, because that is a beefy game, and obviously, like, what you brought up, one of the best points about Dragon Quest, it's like what it does might on the outset look just like really safe and boring, but like that is like it is the comfort food of like classic JRPGs. Like, Dragon Quest does not go to invigorate and like wow and like push the buttons. Like, there's a reason those games launch in Japan with black and white windows and no voice acting. Like, it's very traditional. Like, people like those games because they want that, like, because you don't get a lot of games like that. Like, even indie games don't really, like, there are very few indie games that like go out of their way to be like, oh dude, I want to be like 8-bit RPGs for like the NES, and most people are going to think Final Fantasy 1 and 2. No one is
which is
sitting there.
stupid.
Yeah, but like that's like one of my favorite indie RPGs of all time is the Dragon Fantasy series, which literally just takes my two favorite things of like classic NES era Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest into one, which, like, unfortunately they were not super popular, so we only got like two of them. But like
Yeah.
little things like that. You were talking about it, but I don't think I actually like heard you. What did you say your take was on DQ11? I'd be very curious.
Dragon Quest XI, I mentioned it in the Megadolan podcast, starring Gnarly, featuring me, Jack's Bag of Maca, and Gab Mew. I played it the first time and I thought it was nice. I thought it was like Dragon Quest 9 tier of good. The combat was super fucking slow, which was my big issue. But then I dropped it because the grinding was fucking ridiculous. And I'm playing it again and I can't power through it. And I think that's
I feel
fucking
like we need
stupid.
to have a caveat. Where are you playing it?
Just in my room on my PS4.
No, oh yeah, I meant like system. Just because the like Switch, PS4, and there are so many little weird differences on each version, which I think it's really stupid that they kept all the nice quality of life features on the Switch version. But hey, whatever. Nintendo bucks. Uh, that does bring me back into an interesting question. I've been thinking about this a lot because of how much I've been playing FF7 Remake. If you're Atlas and you're working on SMT5, you have got to actually be shitting yourself that SMT5 is not going to look ugly, right? Because I think the last time I've talked about SMT5's presentation was I had Adrian on, who's other game developer who's had some experience working with Unreal Engine 4. And obviously, like, this is Atlas's first time using an open engine software, and at least for like the main bulk of development. I know OG Catherine worked on Gamebryo, but for SMT5, like, I find it so funny how people rarely kind of bring up the fact that it's being made in UE4. And for me, just because I know of like how much like Atlas makes their games on a budget, it makes me worry that by the time SMT5 does come out, it's like in my head, I don't know what they can do to make that game visually kind of pop without losing what makes it classic SMT, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. My big, every single fucking game that I played on Unreal Engine 3, like Kingdom Hearts 3, looks like dog shit.
No,
I
you
think
mean
it looks like dog
you
shit.
mean 4.
Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts 3 is on UE4. Everything that looks brown and looked like Gears of War 2 was Unreal Engine 3.
No, I was saying Kingdom Hearts 3. I just meant like Unreal Engine.
Gotcha,
I said
gotcha.
everything I've seen on Unreal Engine, like Kingdom Hearts 3, just looks like dog shit. Like the environments are cool, you know what I'm saying? And like that's cool and everything, but the character models and the way they animate are just so fucking weird. They look like plastic. They look like those like posable figurines, but not like the ones with like the joints. They look like the ones that are on wires, and they just put plastic, like bendy plastic on it, and it's I don't like it. That's like my biggest issue.
So even DQ11, you didn't like the visuals?
Yeah, I didn't like the character models at all. Like the environments were fine. The environments were fine, like I said, but like the character models and their animations were really fucking weird. Everything just felt really stiff. I like that shit because like you look at the difference between like going back to Kingdom Hearts, you look at like the animation in Kingdom Hearts 2 and compare that to 3, like they're so active and there's a lot of squash and stretch and the animations are so smooth and shit like that in Kingdom Hearts 2, and then in 3 it feels like they're literally getting sequenced, like, you know, reset the animation here, start a new animation. It feels so robotic and it feels so plastic and it's nasty.
See, it's really funny as like a big Kingdom Hearts fan. Kingdom Hearts 3 is like a really big step up for the guys who made it. The guys who made Kingdom Hearts 2 obviously went on to make Final Fantasy VII Remake and not Kingdom Hearts 3. And the guys who made Kingdom Hearts 3 were the Osaka team who did all the PSP games and stuff and Dream Drop Distance. So like going from those games, it's like, oh, it's so much of an improvement from that. But yeah, there was never a point in playing 3 where it was like, oh, it's an improvement over 2. It was like, this is the best they've done, but it's still not really up to the people who really loved Cage 2's movement and feeling.
Yeah, it's not like a Persona 5 to Persona or Persona 4 to 5 kind of difference. It's more like a Persona 3 to Persona 4 kind of difference.
Yeah, I would love to like have been more active in the community back when Persona 3 launched, because like I know like those conversations happened of people looking at Persona 3 and just kind of feeling like its graphic design change was just so different. Like there were those people who really liked it, but obviously like there are those people out there even still to this day who really like that kind of more pure and a lot more like minimal kind of take that the UI had for Persona 1 and especially Persona 2.
Yeah. I actually low-key hate replaying Persona 4. I kind of hate the changes that Persona 5 made. I was saying it on stream, like I think the UI in Persona 4 is just infinitely more stylish than the one in Persona 5, because Persona 5 is just so in your face. Everything just bleeds the same style. Persona 4 just seems so precise. Like everything moves the way it wants to move. Everything looks the way it wants to look. And that's my favorite thing about it. I hate how busy Persona 5 gets. I hate how instead of being a shop, it has to be like, oh, this cool light show where the colors change and the character model moves and everything. I like minimalist design because I'm not saying it's bad, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying from my personal
right.
taste.
You were like, it's in your face. Like a good example is like the UI in Persona 3 and 4 is static. The UI in Persona 5 is always moving. Like even if it's just like art, like whether it be like the stars shifting in the background or like the patterns moving, it's just kind of like when I was reviewing all the DLC in Persona 5, I was like, who thinks these Picaro ones look good? Like I get that it's the thematic like look of 5, but like these all look bad.
I hate the fucking way the lighting, like the cell shading or whatever the hell they did with the demons. I think that looks like dog shit. Like the weird, harsh, like sharp shadows. Like it looks like goop. It looks like they're just doused in oil. I don't like the splashes and things like that on the floor and like when they explode and shit like that. It's just not something that I find visually appealing. It's too many different things.
Atlas has had a really hard time always, I think, at least for me, making their 3D elements always stand out, and I think that's why they've always like really honed in on stuff like the graphical presentation of the menus and things like that. Because if you take off the shaders on Persona 5, Persona 5 looks like the most bland PlayStation 3 game like ever. And so it's like when
Yeah.
you like kind of like get those things out of there, that's like what makes this me so interesting. Because like my favorite presentation for the series of SMT has always usually been like its 2D take with like stuff like that, and be like, man, I know they wouldn't, but imagine how excited people would be if like the dream for all Final Fantasy fans is we're going to just get in a mono based game. The guy who does all the concept art, we're going to get a game that looks like that. Like imagine if we actually got a SMT game that is just, hey, we found him Kaneko in a fucking cave at 7-Eleven. We're going to make a 2D like really fucking nicely animated Kaneko just painting of a game. Like how hyped that would make
Yeah.
people.
Honestly, I I think SMT4 is the closest we've ever got to that because if you read the interviews in the art book, you know that everything was meticulously designed around Kaneko's vision of the story that he wrote. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
y-
And
just
like
specifically
going
because,
into like Apocalypse, that difference is felt big time. And I like Apocalypse, but like the like just the feeling from 4 in Apocalypse, even though they are made in the same engine and a lot of the same team is there, like that vision you can tell is just not present.
yeah, because one specific thing in the art book that I wanted to point out, me and LaRue were going over it. Shout outs to LaRue. I love you, bro. But we were reading it together and the underground districts specifically, they were originally just outside towns and cities, super sky high with demons flying over up top. And Kaneko specifically said it's a demon infested post-apocalyptic Tokyo. Why would they just be casually outside like that? Shops running, people living, people walking around. And so he said, we want them to move underground to, present the kind of state and like establish who runs the streets. And you know what I'm saying? Like, and then so the second one was them in storage units. And then he said, I don't like that because it makes them seem like prisoners, like they haven't fully adapted or something like that. Kind of looks like a concentration camp. I think that's what he literally said, like a concentration camp or something. And so that's how we moved to the underground districts today, where they're in like the subway places. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that's really nice because it's not done by him, but it's specifically his vision for everything done by Eiji Ishida and Doi and everything like that. I just think it's great. That and Nocturne, just the evolution of Nocturne in general was great. The art direction in Nocturne is, I think Nocturne is definitely, in my opinion, the prettiest PS2 game and probably the best looking Megaten game we've seen so far, just because it's so unique. It doesn't have to conform to any like universal design like of, oh, this is what buildings in Tokyo look like and things like that. It can do its own thing. Things like the obelisk and the assembly of Nihilo and things like that and Tower of Kaigatsuchi are like some of my favorite areas in the game just because it's so light based. I think I said it in my Nocturne video, like the way the light emits from the walls and the way you can see like the Magatsuhi like flow through that like the sky, or maybe in the Amala Temple, the way you can see it flow in the water. It's just so, it feels like you can feel everything moving in its own pace, like it has a pulse, like it's alive. And I think that shit's fucking sick.
See, my favorite part about Nocturne, I had a revelation back in January, and I don't know how this never hit me until like recently because I knew that like Mach and X existed, but like how
Yeah.
many people are out there that don't realize that whole generation of PlayStation 2 Atlas games are based off a Dreamcast engine?
Is it really?
Yeah, that the Nocturne engine started with Mach and X. Mach and X is the Catherine to Persona 5. It's really really weird because like it's the character models and the shading are definitely like just almost there to Nocturne levels, but the big difference of it that makes the presentation like go budget really really hard is they really weren't confident in their animations. So Mach and X, literally all the cutscenes are like Metal Gear Solid where no one's mouth ever opens, so they just do
Yeah.
the head nod up and down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, like so like stuff like that of like, man, it's really funny how they like really make like they make those engines like, oh, man, like honestly no, think about it like this. That engine, its whole lifespan, it went from Mach-E X in like what was that 2000, all the way to Persona 4 Golden on Vita.
I just think it's hilarious because knowing that it's on the Mach-E X engine, like the big difference in graphics from Mach-E to Nocturne, and then the gigantic downgrade from Nocturne to Persona 3. How the fuck do you mess that up? You know what I'm
I
saying?
think
Like,
that one's definitely a one of scale and optimization of like, hey, we can make like these work because of like the amount of like different like environments and textures and kind of polygons. Because like back in the day, you could definitely tell Atlas was like, we're gonna make one thing look really really pretty and see how many times we can get away with using it. And as that slowly started to move away from that into we're making different environments, you can tell things like that definitely suffered. But I mean that's even a case now with games like I genuinely think right now the prettiest looking game out there is Final Fantasy VII Remake, but no joke, Cloud's bedroom door looks like a Nintendo 64 texture, and it makes me laugh every time.
I see screenshots of a lot of low texture shit, and I just thought like, oh, maybe it just hasn't loaded yet. Maybe it's just the game, like having trouble. Nope,
I'm
it's
fine
just
with
there
it
that
because
exists
like
the
I
whole
get
time.
it. Like it doesn't take me out of the immersion, but it is just one of those really funny things of, hi, I'm main character. You can tell because I have 9 million bajillion trillion polygons just to make my fucking pubes, and I have let's see 10 minutes of work into this NPC.
Yeah, I just think it's weird. Like, why make something like that low poly? You could just put something in the background or something. Why
work
specifically
work
that?
pipeline stuff like it's one of those ones of like it is so like easy to pick out as like a nitpick, but like I never bring up the uneven graphical quality in terms of like any of my criticisms that I've talked about with the game. It's always been like other little things for it because I feel like it's so easy to look and zoom in on any little thing, even in like tinier games. Like a good example for me is like P5R. They boasted about it having like higher graphical fidelity and stuff, but like there are still assets there that look like PS1 game assets. Like in the new town, Kichijoji has some almost like Japanese porn levels of pixelation for their quality. Like it's really really bad. Like there are textures in Tokyo Mirage Sessions that look better than P5R, and that's a Switch game of a Wii U game.
Yeah, I just think it's fucking hilarious because if like I agree with what you're saying, like how things like that shouldn't be counted towards like grand criticisms. Like I don't think anybody is gonna fucking like care how bad a game looks as long as it plays good because I don't think graphics are super important. Like I don't think a negative of SMT4 is that it's 2D sprites, you know what I'm saying? Like but like I think it's really funny how Persona 5 is praised so much for its style yet literally 90% of the dungeons look like shit. I think Monorame's palace is one of the only ones that I liked. I think Kamoshida's looks really bad. Like the colors are super like muddied out for half of it. Like maybe the interior of the castle's cool, but like getting into it, the outside, the upper levels and shit like that just don't look good. Kanashiro's palace is just dunked in this ugly green color, green blue steel color. What comes after that?
I that was Okumura, which is just the space one. I have to say, I've never once met someone who likes the filter when you're in the metaverse. You know that like little kaleidoscope thing on the border of the screen?
Yeah.
Like what is that? Like who is that for? Like that I it's just that little thing of I remember when I started playing it, I was like, this is way more distracting than it has any right to be and has no
I
reason to
feel
be
like
here.
they did it because Persona 4 did it because it had the TV effect on it to signify that you're in the TV world. So I guess they're like, oh, we should do it with here too
It's
to
definitely
signify that
not
you're in
their
the
giant
metaverse.
outfits or the fact that whenever they walk, they apparently stick in a purple Nickelodeon gack pit.
I think that's probably one of my only things that I like about the metaverse is that little purple paint thing, like the
Yeah, like
difference in
stuff like that
aesthetic.
adds character. Like stuff like that is less distracting to me than like throwing a filter on to have a filter. Like the
Just
TV thing worked because obviously
it's a
you're
fucking
going into a
TV.
TV. But like even
Yeah.
Persona 4, like if the only shtick was they had glasses on, that would have been fine. Like fog and glasses would have been enough.
Yeah, okay, holy shit, that would have actually been really cool. I was just thinking like maybe like the closer it gets I was thinking if they ever remade Persona 4 or remastered it, like the closer it would get to like the release or the date for saving somebody, like the more fog there'd be in the TV world or something. I always think of that shit, you know what I'm saying? Like if they ever actually remade these games, what kind of differences in aesthetic or gameplay that I would make. That was like one of the things that came to my mind when I was streaming it. I don't think I said it though.
Would you like to know a really depressing, little-known development fact about P4?
Let me hear, baby.
There was at one point talk about making the dungeons first person again, and the point of
Uh-huh.
that would have been interesting was to implement the fog and actually have that be difficult to see through and make traversing it harder. It wouldn't be block sectioned. And
Yeah.
and they got to a point where they're like, there's no way that this fog looks good. Like they tried to like make the fog like an actual mechanic, and so they're like, no, we'll just make it third person. Like they were like, we can't do this. This is a fucking PS2 game. We can't do this.
Yeah, I feel like I mean I guess we're on the same fucking track of mine. Me and Katsura Hoshino, we're like related or something. It's my dad.
So yeah, there you go. That's the real dad, the not simple dad.
Yeah, that's where has he been all my life? I need some child support money stat.
So I need to do this. This is very, very kind of related to what we're talking about, but I'm gonna hit you with some Unreal Engine 4 games, and I need you to just give me your hot, quick takes on if they look good or not. So we'll just do hot or not for games. All right, you ready? Batman Arkham
Yeah.
Knight.
I think they kind of look waxy.
Let me see. Tekken 7.
Oh, that's a good game. That's a good game right there.
Polar opposite, Street Fighter 4. Sorry, Street Fighter 5. Also a UE4
Oh,
game.
that's a ugly game right there. Everybody's made out of clay.
God, everything is ugly about that one. Guilty Gear Strive.
I think ArcSys definitely did something new. I don't really like anime art styles, but like as far as it goes, it's probably the best you'll get from an anime game.
And there was one other one I was going to. Oh yeah, just because I had also been talking about it. FF7. How do you feel that looks as a UE engine?
The remake?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks good.
I had a really sad moment of realization of, you know how CyberConnect, the Naruto and Dot Hack dev, was originally going to make that remake?
Yeah.
I had a really depressing moment where I went back and watched the first gameplay trailer back when they were making it. Every bit of the environment that they made is in there still. But their name is not in the credits at all. It's like some guy like busted his ass to do the bombing mission, and it's just like, I'm uncredited.
Poor guy. Maybe he was a scumbag. Maybe he deserves it.
Nah,
That's
dude.
the narrative
I'm
on
a
this.
I'm a CyberConnect defender. I know a lot of people hate. Oh, speaking of trashy looking games that are made in UE4, Jump Force looks god awful.
Yeah, that's like the equivalent of people like putting a Mario model in Unreal Engine and going, "Ugh, just hire me."
I
Man. What
hate.
the fuck
Oh
is you
my god.
doing,
I
bro?
hate how. I hate how accurate that is. That yeah, you're right. Jump Force is the IGN or YouTube article you would see of, look at this fan who recreated Kakariko Village in Unity.
This will be graphics in 2013.
Oh my god. My favorite part, if you go to the Unreal Engine Wikipedia page, there are 4 sections for each of the engines they've had, Unreal 1 through 4, and then there's an
Yeah.
unknown section for games that were made in Unreal but were never disclosed which one, and the only game that classifies under that is Duke Nukem Forever. They wouldn't say what version of it is, and my hilarious thought of that was, first, I bet they want to say it's Unreal Engine 3, but they cheaped out and actually just made it in Unreal Engine 2. Because a lot of games were made in Unreal Engine 2 way later than people probably thought. Like Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite are Unreal Engine 2 games.
Really?
Yeah, and I mean, it's really impressive, like, how long they kept using those engines, but, like, it's just, like, little things like that, like how, with Borderlands 3, one of the reasons the development took so long is because they tried to make it in Unreal Engine 3. It was like, guys, you started working on this in 2016, what were... Like, why did you think that this engine from 10 years ago would have been a good idea?
I just think games like Duke Nukem Forever are just like an unfortunate case that are just never going to work out no matter how much like effort you put into that shit.
Yeah, those are like always like really weird ones. Like, I don't think Duke Nukem, no matter how hard they try, I don't think there's a Doom 2016 that could ever be like made out of like Duke Nukem, you know? Whereas like Doom kind of revitalized that. Like Wolfenstein even had that with like New Order. Like no matter how much I rack my brain, I don't think there's any chance where Duke Nukem could come back and everyone is happy with how it is.
Duke Nukem is a product of its time, and because of that fact alone, it just could never work in no matter what context. You can completely revamp it, and it still wouldn't work because it's not like a brand new IP that looks super cool and promising. It's Duke Nukem.
So speaking of things that don't look good, and kind of going back to Unreal Engine, like we were talking about, what would you want them to do, or what do you think would be the best case scenario for how the presentation at SMT5 should be? Because really, we've seen like nothing concrete in terms of like outside of fucking pre-rendered demons.
Probably what I said before, just focus heavy, like go heavy, because it doesn't look like it's gonna. It looks like my first impression of the trailer, the post-apocalyptic Tokyo, was like, damn, this kind of looks like the Vortex world. Give me something good, you know what I'm saying? Give me like that otherworldly thing. Give it a real unique art direction. Give it something different. Because even if the like outside normal apocalyptic environments don't look good, I still want to like see, because Unreal Engine does mad work with the environments. Focus on that. And like even if the characters look like kind of jank and they animate kind of jank, I want, something like that, because if we're going to make the argument that like, oh, it doesn't matter if the characters like animate weirdly, or it doesn't matter if they look a certain way as long as the environments are good, I feel like that's why people like Persona 5, because Persona 5 looks really good. You know what I'm saying? Graphically, the environments are kind of cool.
Yeah,
Minus,
like whether
the
you like the style or not, like there's a lot of like technical like hard work went into making that game look the way it does.
yeah, but like it really contrasts with the fact that the characters still animate like it's a fucking PS2 game. Like they just do set animations and don't really do anything unique. Like, there's a very clear difference between the things that are mocapped and the things that are like.
You need to see Persona 5 Royal, because like the new cutscenes and the stuff they did for like the Showtime attacks are
Yeah.
beautifully animated. And
Are
then
they
the
all
other
motion captured?
Yes, and like the other 95% of it that was like made 20 years ago apparently in someone's like old fucking server farm. It's like it's so weird, especially because the Showtime attacks take place in the battles. Like a good example
Yeah.
is this. The follow-up attacks you'll get where they'll like be like, "I'm gonna get him," and, like it'll just like get you an instant crit.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
those attacks look bad. Like the animation of Ryuji swinging his
Yeah,
arm,
that was the first thing I was about to bring up.
like that
Ryuji's fucking
looks
weird
bad.
ass arm.
And that's still in the game. Like, you could get that to happen, or you could get this amazing fucking tag team wrestling drop out fucking team up move between Haru and Makoto. And it's just like, this is in the same game. It's just so boggling to my mind of like, clearly, like, Persona 5 Royal was clearly like, hey, here is your budget. You can do whatever you want with this, but you are like not allowed to remove anything from the core game's like graphical mechanics.
It's just such a gigantic difference, because I've only seen I think the only Showtime attacks that I've seen are the ones in the trailer. So that's the one with Haru and Morgana. I saw the ones in Gnarly's video, which was always just Morgana and An. And then
Those
I
are
saw
the least exciting. Like honestly,
I saw Yusuke's and Skulls.
That's a great one, yeah. The food one's one of my favorites, and like they even have like little touches like this. Like if a boss gets a Showtime attack and like they're too big to fit into the animation box for being shot at by Yusuke and Ryuji, you have a POV version of it. Like there's multiple variations of this one Showtime attack. Like there's at least 3 to 4 different kinds.
Oh, that's dope. That's
yeah,
dope.
like they have so much work put into it. And like when you're in the new dungeon after 19,000 fucking hours of playing the game again, like when you're in the new semester, you like it retroactively make me wish the rest of the game was this finely tuned and well written, and it was like, this is the best part of the game. It shouldn't have taken a whole nother playthrough of this game to get to it.
That's probably my big issue with the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, if like they could have done that, I would have rather waited one more fucking delay to get a game like that. Like you see the kind of quality that they can provide, and that's why I'm so hard on games like that. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm so hard on Persona 5, because you like someone like you who, as far as I was concerned before this, just praised like universally almost, because I don't see your criticism about it. I can't exactly follow you on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? So like as far as I'm concerned, you liked almost everything about Persona 5, and seeing you say
super hilariously not true, because like it's like I was going to do my review immediately after beating it, like similar to how Gab did, and I'm so glad I've let it stew, because the more I've thought about it and the more I've reflected, it's just gone down and down and down.
Yeah, that's me with the other games. You know what I'm saying? Like I originally started being really excited for Persona 5. I was super like stoked for it to come out. I was waiting for all this shits and I was really excited. And I played it and I thought it was cool. And then I watched Johnny Austin play and I was like, wow, watching it is not as fun. And I tried playing it again and then I quit halfway through because I thought, wow, this is the most fucking boring replay of like this is so stupid. Obviously, my opinion's more sour than yours because you're still more of a positive guy than I am.
Well,
But like,
it's not even that. Like if I had to say like do I find Persona 5 like a bad game? No. Like it's the best version of Persona 5. It's just Royal has so much baggage behind it. It's like a girl doesn't say no to a date to you. Like I have to thoroughly explain why I'm saying no to you because there are so many like little fucking caveats and stuff. Like and it's especially hard like in retrospect of like looking at other things like when they're like, "Oh, well, it couldn't be DLC or blah blah blah." And like what really sucked is like after I played Royal and the more like I even like thought about it after credits rolled, I was like they could have literally just done the exact same thing they did with Fez. Because Fez changed stuff in the day-to-day regular playthrough as well, but you could have just gone to the answer. And the gameplay stuff, there's nothing that would have stopped them from just throwing a level 70 for everybody save slot and let you just done the last semester because it's like a solid 20 to 30 hours of story and it is the best stuff of that game. And I know for a fact that more people probably would have bought, maybe not for $60 just to check out that last like a little bit of in-game content right away, but like take for example the re-release of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition in May. That is going to have a new epilogue content that you can just immediately jump into. Like if you told people the only way to check out this new stuff in this 100+ hour RPG was to just replay it again, there are those people like me who probably still would play it, but more people just want to see the new stuff so they can kind of move on.
yeah, I understand what you mean entirely, especially since what you brought up at the beginning of it. It seems like the only people who are interested in Royal or like super picked it up at the start were the people who already played Persona 5.
Yeah. I will say this because we were also kind of getting into talking about it. Is there any part of you that is worried because I can so see this happening that the demon models from Persona 5 and specifically because it's on Switch already, the scramble version of all the demons is what they're going to kind of use as the baseline look for SMT5, but just probably throwing a different graphical shader. Because I'm really worried they're
Um,
just going to rinse and repeat because it would save them a lot of money.
Probably because I mean, being real, we've literally been seeing the same exact fucking animations and in some instances the same exact like model structure since fucking Nocturne.
Yeah, and it's definitely noticeable. And even going into the pixel art ones of like, man, it is definitely weird that a game like Strange Journey Redux is like, yeah, we'll use those Game Boy Advance animations still. Yeah, this is still good.
Yeah, I think it's really weird, but I don't really mind, you feel me? Because like DX2 looks so good. I think it looks really good. I think my only issue with DX2 is that some of the demons feel really static and the samey, like with their animations. Like obviously they're just a lot of the flying demons kind of just float there, and then afterwards they'll do like a little flavor animation. Like the difference between like Gabriel and Michael is that sometimes he'll put out his left hand and Gabriel will put out her right hand with the flower or some shit. Like if they're using DX2 as like a base for how like the demon should animate, I think it looks really good because there's a lot of demons in here that aren't in Persona 5, I don't think.
Oh yeah, DX2 has way more than that graphical base. But my worry is like those they're probably their animation rigs are a whole lot simpler because like you said there's not a ton of animations for those kind of like Pokemon Go like games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I worry just because those animation rigs are already kind of there for really what they need in terms of it has a summoning move, it has an attack move, it has a ultimate kind of move,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
things like
yeah.
that. Because one of my biggest surprises when I was playing Scramble is I was thinking there's only going to be like maybe if we're lucky like 10 or 20 like actual demons and stuff for it, but no, they have like almost 100 already in Scramble already ready to go and already brought down in terms of quality, and they have more animations in Scramble than P5, so it's like, oh well, okay. Like at this point it would be cool to be proven wrong, but the cheapskate in me who knows that Atlas isn't a big ball AAA company kind of feels like they're probably just going to do that.
I know exactly how you feel. Don't worry about it. But like, in my opinion, anything is better than what we've gotten so far. Like, if they bring in like the DX2 animations and the Persona 5 models, it's a win-win because the attack animations for a lot of them are really fucking cool. You feel
I'm
me?
trying to think who is the actual developer of DX2 because I super don't follow that game at all. Because I know they're not internal at Sega.
Let me see. There's probably credits here. I've literally been playing it this entire time.
Very, very good.
I shell that shit so hard.
Well, you and LaRue have to because literally no one else will.
Let's see. Kazuyuki Yamai wrote the story for this game. What the fuck, dog?
Reminder, people, DX2 does have a story and it is still getting updated to this day.
Let's see.
It says the developer is Atlas and Sega, so I'm sure it is someone in house. I don't know why, but for whatever reason in my head, I was very, very certain that it was like a third party for some reason. Oh, I remember. I thought it was weird because technically it's not an Atlas game. It is published.
It's
by
a Sega game.
Yeah, that's one of the weird ones. But I mean, at this point now, especially in the West, like Atlas didn't even publish P5R. It just looks like it just says Sega. So like they pretty much just wrapped all the brand up to it at that point. So that's probably why I had that confusion.
Yeah, at the very bottom it says that the production and the copyright is the Sega, so I don't see nobody else. But they do credit literally every single person who worked on the models and the anime.
Oh man, DX2.
So
I wish
maybe there might be a link somewhere.
I wish I could be more into that, but I'm just really, really bad at phone games and just didn't.
I hate playing it now.
The art style didn't get me, and none of the hooks ever really feel like anything that would want to pull me away from other games.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but like now that I'm in quarantine, me and LaRue and some of our other friends were literally talking about it. Like now that we're in quarantine, I don't want to play this game.
Oh yeah, because if you're not playing it on like the commute, it's like, oh, this sucks to just kind of sit down and play. It's what all the tens of Quippy subscribers are realizing since they launched this 10-minute long platform of like, hey, you can watch stuff on your commute, but no one has a commute anymore. Watch it in your bed and be disappointed.
You make this like the second to third time you brought up Quavy. You got something against them? You want to talk about it?
I'm actually getting paid every time I mention it, but I still can. It's like there are those people who get the Raid Shadow Legends sponsorships, but they're so big baller they can actually rag on it in the sponsorship. It's like that.
Yeah. Bro, I'm not gonna like go into any details, but like somebody told me that they got a sponsorship with a certain company, and you have any idea how much fucking bank they get paid for one video? It's insane.
Yeah, I have seen the numbers at least for a couple people with Raid Shadow Legend in particular, and it is very, very funny to me.
Yeah, I've seen like tweets of people being like, "Oh, Raid just offered me something I'm not gonna do," and it's like $10,000. Like, bro, I would advertise anything for an easy $10,000, bro. You could give me like penis enlargement pills. I got you.
I mean, guys, remember, Pro Jared before his big controversy, he did technically get sponsored to talk about DX2. Did that kill the game? I don't know. You tell me. Just saying.
I also got sponsored by the same exact people, but it was really funny because I messaged them. I was like, okay, I'm interested. What kind of campaign are you doing? And they just never hit me up ever again. It was literally like
it actually was penis enlargement pills.
Yeah. That I was getting paid in natural male enhancement.
It was Viagra but spelled in reverse, so it's for dyslexic people with enlargement problems.
I think I have dyslexia because I can't read things. You know how many years I mispronounced Gira Makala? I still can't spell it for you.
I mean, I'm gonna be real. It would make a lot of sense why you go by Dad because even if you're dyslexic, it still looks right.
Yeah.
Well, before I say this as if it's going to be a really cut and dry kind of question, you were kind of getting into your thought process of when you were playing through Persona 5. Was there ever like any kind of up and down for it for you? Because your negative response to the game still to this day almost makes me wonder what made you go to beat it. Because for me, the way even playing through Royal makes me feel is this. It starts pretty strong. It definitely takes a tonal handicap for a long period in the middle, and then it just has a lot of filler until you roll credits.
Yeah.
So, like, what was that like for you in terms of, like, what actually motivated you to beat P5 if your, like, opinions on it were, like, as dire as they were?
Because I'm still very much of the opinion that you cannot say that you, like, for sure do or do not like something if you don't play it. And I want to make sure that I'm as accurate as I can be when I'm criticizing
Hey,
something.
hey,
It's
next time you talk to Gnarly, can you just like tell him that about Persona 3 and 5 dancing? That'd be great.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with Persona 3 and 5 dancing. They're just shallow, hollow husks of, the game it came
They are
from.
two games that together make a pretty good game. That's why like I when I reviewed it, I was like I have to review them like they're the same game. Like they literally were made at the same time by the same people and have the exact same menus. They literally are the same game with different songs and different presentation.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I will never not let him forget it. Just because, like, I get it if you want to shit on the dancing games, especially 3 and 5, because of how scummy a lot of their practice was. But, like, it's the one thing that always, like, fucking gets me with him is, like, listen, just play it. Don't even, like, just, like, it's dirt cheap. I think if you, like, throw Atlas a pickle, they'll give you a physical copy at this point. Like, the game goes on sale all
Pickle.
the time, and it's just, like, just play it and then just hate on it. It's just, like, you bring up a great point of like it's not even like you'd have to beat it, but yeah, I do hate that as well when you kind of get to the point of like, oh, I'm going to criticize this, and it goes back to what we talked about earlier of like, just do it. Like if you're going to actually be an active participant in the conversation, your opinion is way more valid if you've actually dedicated your time and energy and money to it.
Yeah, because I hate, and specifically in this recent video that I launched, everyone's literally like, well, the actual reason, like fucking pointing their finger at me, actually, the real reason why nobody really likes SMT is because it's so dated and old and ugly. I'm like, no, you're ugly, bitch. Like, my second favorite Megaten game is Soul Hackers. I fuck with that game so heavy. It is from 1997, and that was released maybe 2, 3 years ago. That's how much fun I have with it. Just because it's old and just because it's not as fast and fluent as Persona 5 does not mean it's dated, does not mean it's old, because dated means bad. Dated means Persona 3 levels of bad. And if people are going to say that Persona 3 is still a good game, but try to say that the older Megaten games are dated and old and hard to get into, suck my ass. Suck my whole asshole. Because it's just not true. Like, you'd have to, like, I don't know. I just can't find like a justification for having that kind of opinion because I hear it all the damn time. I'm like, have you played the games? I have more fun playing Soul Hackers than I do like coming back to Persona 4 maybe. Like there's a lot of issues that I've had. Even when I was streaming, I was literally just mashing through all the exposition dumps like, please, can we like move on? You know what I'm saying? Like, but with Soul Hackers, I could really replay it right now and just be like, wow, this is so much fun and so fast, and everything feels like it's so great. I'm having such a good time. You know what I'm saying?
The perks of having a RPG not have to be over 90 hours to beat for playing the story. That's like one of my like favorite things is like in Persona 5 when you have to pay attention to the story because everything's voiced. Like if you guys didn't go through the effort of voicing 80% of all your confidants in Persona 5, then that's you showing that you're pretty not confident already in like the writing and how important the relevance is to the story. Like there are some great writing parts in Persona 5, but like in Royal it's really really weird. I was talking about this in last week's episode, but it's like one of my favorite characters in the game, Maruki. For me personally, his confidant was boring for 70% of it, and only at the end of the game, like, and it totally did it. Like, he's a great character and he's very fleshed out and developed, but like all of his character development is at the beginning when it's all voiced, at the end, pretty much. Like, but by the time it's at rank 7, that's basically the end. Like I've done more than half, and I find it all as filler. That's not a good thing. But thankfully, the last semester kind of saves him as a character, which I still cannot get over how bad I feel that Gabby did. She was rushing to beat Royal and didn't know the parameters to unlocking the third semester. Like, if she didn't have multiple save slots, because, like, I'm a madman, I always have just one save slot for every game. Like, if I
You're
had to
nuts.
replay Persona 5 twice to do Royal, it would be just infuriating to me of just, like, the sense of, like, that you have to earn the last bit of it. It's like it is a worse experience if you don't do that. But I find it so funny that they kept the original game's ending in there if you want it to be a bad ending.
I'm kind of like half and half on that because I'm playing the Royal a little bit on this side because I'm literally replaying Persona 4, working on new video, uh, not being productive at all. and like just trying to balance things. But like I think it's really kind of in the middle. Like I said, like it's kind of weird that you have to do all these prerequisites to unlock the new things, but I also think it's weird that people are complaining that to unlock the new content you have to complete the new content. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
I get that. My biggest thing is when it comes to complaints, especially when it came to me critiquing Royal, had been the game, and it actually helps that you've played it so you can kind of get this a little bit. When you do that opening segment in the casino, that is the game just straight up lying to you. It is catfishing you into thinking Persona 5 is going to be different in Royal. It's like, look, there's a grappling hook. There's Kasumi. Look, you played as her. Isn't she great? And then, like,
What the hell?
where you're
Yeah.
at now, like, you probably haven't even gotten to play with her again. Like, you get to play as Kasumi twice, and play is a very liberal use of that word. You get to use her in a single battle twice before January, which is
I
all the
can't
new
believe you'd
content.
spoil the game for me, bro. Why would you do that? What the fuck? I get to play as Kasumi?
My favorite part that I still cannot believe nobody gives this game a harder credit for. It's like there's the people out there who will rag on the game for the DLC. I still cannot believe that Atlas has the balls to sell DLC for a character who is playable in one dungeon. That you have to play an entire other game's worth to get to. Because it's not even like other games where like if you new game plus Persona 5, you can't just use Kasumi right away. You still like
Yeah.
she is only ever playable in the last dungeon. It is
I
so
just
so,
don't
so
forget that you have to
mind-boggling.
buy DLC costumes for it too.
Yeah, just remember folks, the it may seem petty to complain about it, but I will say I'm always up for hearing people's opinions, whether it be pro or con in a lot of things. The one side that I will never understand and will just be mean and laugh at your face is the really weird people who defend DLC. That is the weirdest one, where you see people who are like, listen, they have justified with all of their hours of new content. Do they not deserve more money for these one costumes they did that are just an asset rip from another game? I'd say yes.
The only DLC that I'll ever defend is SMT Force because I always have this argument with people. It's not really an
Well,
argument, it's
which
more like a
ones? Because there
conversation.
are other kind of like meh ones. They're not like
Um,
insulting. All the To be fair, if anyone didn't notice, all of the well, not all of them. 80% of every SMT game on the 3DS has the same DLC: money, power, and like leveling up or like items. They like rinse and
yeah,
repeated like DLC so much.
but the only ones that I don't will defend are I don't understand how you would implement something like Sonat or Ancient of Days into SMT4 unless you pull a Persona 5 Royal where you can only do it on like New Game Plus or something. Or because like how are you gonna like fight a super boss? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like
Like
stuff like
at like the
that.
halfway
Stuff like
point
that
in the
makes sense,
game.
but you also have to like kind of be aware of like the price point. Like none of those DLCs were more than like $5.
Yeah, and that's something that I'll be like that's fine for me because there's no real way you can implement them naturally into the story. And I'm not gonna like I think it's ridiculous to ask somebody if it was implemented in the game, oh, replay the game again, but you have to do or like reincarnation or
Dad,
else you're gonna be super
I'm gonna
underleveled.
need you to replay a perfect run of Apocalypse just for the swimsuit DLC to show up at the end and the Steven boss fight.
Yeah, dude, Messiah's in the Diamond Realm is like one of my favorite DLCs, but also not really because it's such a fucking horribly stretched out. That's my biggest problem with Persona, and literally SMT4 Apocalypse does that for all of its DLC boss fights. It's nothing but a fucking damage sponge with no unique gimmick at all.
That's what actually I really appreciated about the challenge battles is that they actually did make the boss fights with Narukami and Minato, not Minato,
Makoto
Makoto,
Yukio.
yeah. So like the fact that like they actually went with their like it made them feel unique, and the fact that like you're playing against a wild card as a wild card actually felt interesting and like worked with their like series staples personas. Like they did cool shit like that, but it just sucked that it was like advertised in the game as you don't have it. That's the one.
Yeah.
Like, if challenge battles were just a thing you paid for, I would not gripe on them as much as I do. Just the fact that they are in the game and they just show it in your face. You're like, you have one of these, the rest are infinitely cooler, and you have to buy them all.
Yeah. Yeah, for things like that, like, I kinda don't like that at all because like it doesn't seem like something that needed to be. paid for or behind a paywall, because you could just easily implement that into the story because it's just a bonus feature. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It's just something that I don't really fuck with because there's no excuse for it being that way. It is literally just that way to make money.
Yeah, and it's always like the weird one too because there's always that weight as well of like obviously when Atlas does all their games, they've never released a game and then started working on the DLC. Every time Atlas has ever made a game, by the time it is in your hands, whether the DLC is buyable or not, that DLC is on the cart, it's on the disc, it is just done. Because guess what? It's easier for them to just make the timeline for everything at once. That's why the joke with like all of the um with like all the dancing DLCs whenever they did it, they announced all the DLC for every dancing game before the games were out. Like that was just on the disc. It was like, hey, you gotta buy them anyway. It's just like,
I just think it's weird because I think weren't there DLC songs as well?
yeah. With the wait, hold on, for the dancing ones or the mainline series?
Dancing ones.
Yeah, they did two types of songs. They would do songs that you couldn't like they would had one specific character tied to it. It was usually like the guest characters or the DLC characters, or on the other hand, they would do music videos. Those are usually cheaper because they were just basically instead of having a choreography dance, they'd be like trying to think of a nice way to like show them off. It's basically just like a like how you'd see stylized lyric videos on YouTube, but to dance to.
Oh, all right.
And actually, those are really good. And like, I actually for P4 dancing, I was very supportive of all of its DLC. I bought everything. I bought the contact lenses. I bought all the music videos. I bought all the new character dances because those seemed fairly priced and nothing was like too gougy. Like the DLC costumes felt interesting. They like felt like they were doing cool stuff. And when they were being lazy, they gave it away for free. Like the Persona inspired SMT costumes, like where they would just
Yeah.
recolor stuff. It's like they're just recoloring the model, so clearly they shouldn't pay for it. Like one of my favorite parts about P4 dancing was the recolored costumes for the second batch of characters were all voted for by fans. So it
Hmm.
was like, hey guys, tell us your favorite SMT characters and we'll make them like alt color swaps and dancing.
That's cool, but like I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous that you charge money, especially in games like, Persona 3 and 5 dancing for dog shit remixes. I feel like there's only two good songs. No, there's I think there's like three or four good remixes in 3 and 5, and they're all from 5, and one of them is the fucking results theme. And literally the only reason why I think that is because it's done by Ryota Kazuka. I'm of the opinion that Ryota Kazuka is infinitely a better composer than Shoji Meguro is, but that's kind of like a
I don't even think I wouldn't
misplaced.
even say that's like a hot take, just because like I think he just doesn't get enough time to shine. I totally agree. Like all of my playthrough at Royal, I used the dancing Persona 5 dancing costumes just because it made the P5 result theme be the one from dancing, and it fucking kills.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like it's not a good opinion to have because Ryota Kazuka has not nearly been in the game as long as Meguro has, so he
No,
doesn't
it's
experience
definitely
that
apples to
burnout.
oranges for sure, yeah. But it's definitely one of those ones of like he's got to get more time to shine and stuff like that. But I'd be curious though, what did you? So were there no songs in Persona 3 dancing that really stood out to you? I'm a fucking Lotus Juice whore, so I really actually super
I
dug his
fucking
remix.
hate Lotus Juice.
So is it just
He is
well? I'm
trash.
assuming you mean his music because he's a very nice man.
Yeah, I don't know him personally. I just fucking hate his music. I just think it's corny. His lyrics are bad. His like flow is bad.
Man,
Like, it's just fucking terrible.
man, do you like any of his songs?
No,
You know what's funny?
literally nothing.
I think I've grown to actually really respect him more because he does a lot of work as like he does a lot of the lyrics for songs like now, especially with like P5 stuff. Like the fact that he wrote the fucking lyrics to I Believe just blows my mind because that just seems like so out of his fucking wheelhouse. But that song just like
Yeah.
kills. Like have you heard I Believe?
No? Question
That's
mark.
the new. It's basically the river and desert, like the river and the desert version for Royal of like it's the song that like plays it right before the final boss fight and during the final boss fight.
No, then no.
Yeah, so like just like little stuff like that of things like I wouldn't really expect for it, but I mean I wouldn't sit here like defend him in terms of like if you don't like his music you don't like his music because it's like it's definitely a certain type like you whether
I
like it or
feel
you're
like
not.
I feel like because listening to his music that's not SMT related, like just his solo music, it is very obvious that listening to tracks like Mass Destruction, he is just very hard carried, like literally back breaking carried by the fucking beats he's like, rapping under. You listen to him on like Wiping
Man,
All Out,
I don't
Mass
know. Like,
Destruction,
I
and
feel
it's
like
like,
that's a tough one just because a lot of his earlier stuff, whether it be like Carpe Diem and stuff like that, and because like when he did Persona 3, like he was really, really early on in his career. Like he hadn't really done a ton professionally.
yeah. But like even then, moving on, like down the road, even his Backside of TV remix in Persona 4 dancing was not fucking good. His every issue that I had was still there and going on. I think he had a remix song in Persona 3 dancing as well, and
Yeah,
I didn't fucking like that either.
yeah. That's
And his
I forget which one it was. It's one of the few songs with Ken.
I don't remember which one it is specifically, but even even the music he did for the Persona 4 anime, literally Yin and Yang, the song that plays during the fight with Adachi, is legitimately one of the worst songs that I've ever heard in my entire life. Not even just Megaten related, just terrible. And it's his fault. It's his fault.
It's really funny after all these years of like talking to different people. By the way, the song I was talking about from P3D was Deep Mentality, but
All right.
no, it's really funny. I've never actually heard anyone who's not really that big of a fan of his. In terms of the lyricists for the series with Persona, do any of them really stand out for you that you're very affectionate towards?
Like singers or writers?
No, the lyricist, like of who's doing the singing. Yeah, I guess actually no, they're the singers, and this like Lynn is not writing the songs of Persona
Yeah,
5.
Benjamin Franklin's
Who
spit in the.
is Benjamin Franklin? I've looked that up. I can't find him.
Yeah, Benjamin Franklin is the wink wink of Persona.
Dude, like, no joke, one of my favorite Persona fucking 4 songs of all time is the opening to Persona 4 Golden's anime. I fucking love Next Chance to Move On just as a song. It just, like, is an earworm for me. It hurts me that I don't know who Benjamin Franklin is. Like, if I could, like, where in the
What if
world
that's
is
secretly
Carmen
Lotus Juice?
No, I've asked him. I actually, one of the things I asked, because I've interviewed him on this show before. I straight up, I asked him in private. I was like, "Do you know who Benjamin Franklin is?" Like, yeah, it's just some dude who lives in Japan. He's like just some white guy. But it's just like, I hate that he's just some guy, but it's so hard because he's no social media presence at all.
Damn, bro, he's mysterious.
He is.
He
He's the Kazuma Kaneko of the Persona 4 songs.
No, because we know who Kaneko is. I'm talking wink wink. Shut up for one fucking song and has never appeared ever again.
That's what the
Doesn't sound like it.
At least the name, you kind of get it. Like, you could see the mysteriousness of it. You don't fucking think one of the founding fathers of America is writing goddamn Shadow World.
Yeah, my favorite one of my favorite Shoji Meguro songs is actually the second opening to the Persona 4 original anime.
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
know
that
what
one's
it's
great.
call.
Oh, yeah, let me pull it up for it. That's a great one. I think that one
Yeah.
also had lyrics by BLBF.
Yo, shout outs to BF. He's
Man,
chilling over there.
it would like make my day if like one day I find out not only is Benjamin Franklin like real, but like he listens to this show. It would like kill me.
Yeah, actually, what if that's like the first time he ever reaches out to anybody? He's just
Key plus words is what it's called.
yeah. That's
I
the
always
one.
remember that one just because the animation of them putting on the glasses, I fucking think it always looks so slick.
Yeah, that's I don't really know a lot about anime, but I just think the whole like opening was cool with like the really minimalist shots of just them putting on the glasses, but then also when the credits start rolling and it's like you see the real world, you see Inaba through the glasses, but everything on the outside is like staticky and
Yeah,
foggy. That
yeah.
shit's kind of cool.
You know what's not cool and is definitely just looks cheap and is trying to be that, but Persona 5 is the Persona 5 ending that's just them trying to look like the art of Persona 5, but slowly walking off beat to the music, and it just looks really cheap every time I see it. Like that. Do you know which one I'm talking about? Which ending theme?
Fuck no, because I have want absolutely nothing to do with that shit. But
that is the only bit of Persona medium I have not like engaged with. Like, and I don't plan on anytime soon, just because I've done nothing but Persona 5 like the last 2 months of my life, and I'm like, I'm good taking a P5 break. Like, I'll talk about it. I don't need to digest anything new.
Yeah. I've just, 'cause, I don't like anime. That's kind of just where I draw the line. If I don't like Persona 5, why the fuck would I watch the anime? I watched the Persona 4 anime just genuinely to give the thing a chance. Like maybe watching it, I'll see something in Persona 4 that I didn't see originally playing the game. And like I think it's really cool because like I said, I'm making a video about why oh god, he's sending it to me. I
You don't
have to
even have to
watch it.
listen to the song. Just the animation, just like it just hurts me.
Let me see. Because my PC is gonna shit itself if I open that up on my. I have such an old PC that I need to like upgrade stat. But what was I gonna say?
You're talking
Yeah,
about why you give the anime a chance. Please, by the way, tell me if you have seen it or if you plan on seeing the Golden anime, because that I made a tweet about it recently. That anime gets the most undeserving shit because people are like because it's not the anime. It is New Game Plus as an anime, and they know it. It's like a comedy,
I don't
and
like that though.
but see, like I like making it a slice of life because like that's like the best part of like Persona's like weirdness is like when it's not being serious. Like the animation is still there. Like that whole story is still there, and they have little bits of trying to be serious, but like just the little stupid stuff of just like, hey, we're gonna have an episode where fucking Naoto just thinks that Yu is a serial killer, and through the whole episode, it's just teeing up this joke that Yu is going to murder all the girls he's inviting over to bang on Christmas, and then it actually ends up happening.
Yeah, I think that I don't mind shit like that, but like just I don't know, presenting the act when it gets to like the actual story parts, that's when it fucks up. Because I like the original one. I don't think it's that bad. I tend to skip all like the
Man, you
non-essential
want to talk
shit.
about some expensive Persona, dude? Those Blu-rays, like the OG pressing of the English Blu-rays, those are pricey now.
That fucking ending looks really weird.
Right? Like
It's
it's just animated so slowly, and there's like too much detail in their outfits. Like I like because it's trying to mirror that one piece of concept art with Joker, Skull, Panther, and Mona, of like just the four of them kind of, and it's just doing too much. And I get it what it's trying to do of like showing who's all there. I just think it's really weird and busy.
yeah, I think it just looks kind of awkward, especially since it's there for a minute fucking straight.
Yeah. One day when I super run out of things to do on this show, I'll go through episode by episode and review them and make everyone go through. And I don't think I've ever seen an anime adaptation because like we were saying how both of us actually like the P4 animation. I will say this: I've never met a single person I know who likes the P5 anime. Everyone who has seen that is like, yeah, it's bad.
It looks bad. I feel like if you watch anime, the most important thing about it is that if it looks like presentable, because some things purposefully look a little bad or a little like poorly drawn. Like I used to watch Shin-Chan as a kid.
Love the dub of Shin-Chan. Still
Yeah.
funny, still holds up.
And that obviously doesn't look conventionally good compared to something like I don't know, fucking Dragon Ball Super or something. Like there's some instances where a show looking bad can, affect it. Yeah, like Dragon Ball Super. What the fuck? The start of Dragon Ball Super looked like fucking dog shit, and everyone hated it.
Mhm.
So of course, if something like the Persona 5 animation looks fucking terrible, people don't like the Golden animation because it also looks fucking terrible.
That one I give a pass just because it's like it's a different animation house. I don't think it's bad. Like I think there are just as many goofs in like little animation errors in Golden as there is in anime. Like never forget Double Chie. It's just like it happens and shit slips through. Although I will say the P5 anime definitely had less of a pass on it because remember they basically Atlas tried to Mighty Number 9 P5 at launch because remember when it launched in Japan that month in September of 2016 they had the game, the OVA, they announced the anime, and they had a manga launch all in 1 month. It's like, guys, fuck, we don't know if we like this game yet. Why are you guys gonna launch all of this at once?
Yeah, but I feel like it's kind of different from Mighty Number 9 because a game like Persona 5 is basically set up for success.
See, and I get that, but it's like one of the interesting things I find about Persona 5 is I think it's funny. It's found success despite its continued success for its spin-offs. Whether you like Persona 5 Dancing, it didn't sell well. The only really successful entity it's had so far is like none of its manga has been like super duper well. Like it's gone on better than the Persona Q mangas that straight up got canceled after 2 volumes. But outside of Strikers, there has not been a continuation of Persona 5 that has been universally well received. Like Persona 4, you either liked the dancing game, the arena game, you liked. There were just like so many different kind of avenues for it. And
yeah, okay, yeah, I know what I was gonna say. I said that Persona 4 Arena was so popular to the point where like literally it's one of the games that are backward compatible on the new Xbox that's coming out soon.
How sad is that, by the way, that like you can play Persona 4 Arena, the least popular version on Xbox One X right now, but you can't do it on PS4.
Wait, the vanilla version is the popular one because I heard that Ultimax did some weird balance changes.
Oh no, I meant in terms of like the least populated version was the Xbox platform.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
okay,
Yeah, not like the Arena or Ultimax one. Just the fact that like everyone played those on like PS3, and then it was like,
yeah,
oh, but
and
the
I,
Xbox one's good.
I hate when people make excuses, like bringing up my Persona 5 video again. Everyone is literally trying to make excuses for why the Switch version of Scramble has failed. They're like, oh, it's because the original game isn't on the system. Like, Arena, hello, on Xbox,
it's
pretty
also
popular.
important. It's also important to be like, hey, the definition of failed in terms of spin-offs. Actually, Scramble did pretty well, and actually, they think about if Scramble released any other month after when it came out in February, and they would have been fucked over by all this going on right now.
Yeah, but like, I just think of it as a failure because it is literally it is literally worse than Deep Strange Journey on the 3DS in 2018.
Yeah, but that is way, way, way more kind of different. Like, wait, hold on. No way.
Yeah, because DSJ did.
DSJ sold over 200,000.
No, I mean week 1 sales because that's the only thing that I had at the time of, researching for the video because DSJ had like 60,000 and Switch version of Scramble was at like 46.
Okay, sorry, because I thought I got it kind of confused when we were talking about it. I wasn't sure we were talking about week 1 specific, and I forgot you were only talking because one of the points in your video is that the Switch version sold less than what was it like? It sold like 30% of all Scramble copies, like the other
29.
70. Yeah, so it was like one of those things of like, yeah, it sold a lot better. Like in the grand scheme of things, the Switch version only has sold very, very poorly. But yeah, as a game itself, Scramble has done very, very well. But one of the funny things though you brought up with that was like all these people being like, oh, like one of the other ones like I hate as a complaint because it just makes like no sense to me are these people who are just so against the idea of like buying another system other than what they have. It's like, you're aware like you can get a PS4 for probably like $100 used. Like it's
not even, bro. You can buy a fucking Vita for $100 and then you have literally every single Persona game on there.
Yeah, it's like if you bought, and even if you want to be like an elitist about it, like if you want to tell someone to play a majority of the most playable and in English good games, say pick up a Vita and pick up a PS3, and then you can get all those games downloadable like for less than $20 each.
Or just fucking emulate it, bro.
I mean, I've always kind of been against that, but just because I'm a big weirdo, like obviously those options are there, but in those conversations like that no one who's having those put Persona 5 on Switch conversations, no one is just sitting there being like, I mean, I could emulate the PS3 version. It's just those parties are never going to kind of dissect the way that it does with say someone like you who plays on consoles and PC.
I usually just hit people up, because not for the people who are asking for Persona 5, but Persona 4 and 3 saying that they need like re-releases or remakes, just emulate it, bro.
I'm honestly actually surprised that no one has emulated, not emulated, like you can't do Vita emulation. I'm kind of surprised that no one's tried to do a version of P4 on PS2 and try and add in the golden stuff, because I know there are people who are like similarly who like the PS2 version more but would want to check in some of the more quality of life features or even just bring in the higher quality models.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because you could definitely get away with something like that, but I think it'd be really difficult to do without compromising the performance of the game.
I saw one of the most horrifying mods, like I'm sure it looked great for somebody. Someone had modded the original PC version of Final Fantasy VII to have PlayStation 1 low poly models, but they looked like their Advent Children costumes. It was like, this looks just bad. Like, not technically bad, but I'm like, I would not want to play 3K looking like this. It just it felt unnatural.
Yeah, having children is something I don't even want to talk about. I don't even like Final Fantasy. I don't even think I mentioned that at all. I don't think Final Fantasy 7 is a very fun game.
There's not always a lot of crossover. But I'm a weird edge case of I love just a lot of series. But I think with that we could probably sort of wrap up. I think if my computer wanted to change my mic and tell me to shut the fuck up and just post the podcast, that'd probably be it. Do you have any other little final points you want to talk about? We've had a weird episode of not really talking about you or your channel. We've just kind of ranged in terms of talking about weird complaints and weird what ifs.
Yeah, because I feel like when it comes to my channel specifically, there's really not much to see. What you see is what you get. Because I'm not like, I don't claim to be a person that like hides behind a character or something like that, even though in my videos I do put up that little like, and I don't want to call it like an anime like character stills, but people think that's like an OC or a character. No, it's just like a drawing of me. Like my profile picture is based off of me. So everything you really need to know about my channel, you can get from talking to me. If you want to know anything about like any game that I've played, just ask. Or just don't be annoying about it, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really have anything to hide. What you see is what you get. What you hear from me is what it is.
You don't know.
What's up, bro?
John A.K. Gnarly does not look like his anime picture. Very disappointed.
What?
Very disappointed to announce. He does not look like a Persona 2 character.
Damn. I mean, he is Katsuya in real life.
No, definitely not. Confirmed.
But, yeah, I don't know. I think like this, if we did it solely just about me.
Oh no, that was not the plan. I just kind of wanted to see where it went. If you told me in the beginning of this, are we gonna have a fucking 5-minute segment of me spazzing out about fucking Dragon Quest IX, I would have thought you were crazy.
I mean, I think that's like, in terms of podcasts, the best thing you could possibly do is have like a really nice conversation where there's a lot of ebb and flow between different topics, and it feels like a conversation.
I mean, let's be real. How many other SMT podcasts are going to talk about Duke Nukem? This is poor network connection. Was that you or me? Because on my end, it just looked like you just died.
I don't know, but this isn't what I came here for. I came here for SMT, and we talk about Duke Nukem forever on my SMT podcast. I'm unsubscribing. Goodbye, Spencer. Goodbye forever.
No, people have been through this podcast. So there were episodes I've just talked about fucking Vita games, Disney Infinity, Steelbooks. They've been through the ups and downs.
Yeah, plus you talk about you're just the Vita guy, so.
I feel like that's a really low bar. When people kind of say that, like, well, I think when people like know that I have a lot of Vita games, like, so he's got like what, like 100? And it's like, oh no, like, because right now where I'm like recording, I'm sitting in front of my limited run Vita game collection, which is like a little over 100 games, just like unique games. So when people come into my room and they see that, and go, whoa, I didn't even know there were this many Vita games. I'm like, no, this is one subsect of my collection that I
didn't know there's this many games on the Persona 4 Golden Machine.
Oh my god, that's one of those things of like, because when you were telling me you were kind of interested into a Vita, I don't get mad when people instant recommend P4G, because P4G is a good game on the system, and not even that it's a good game, it's a great game on the system. I just don't like when you say a game that came out launch year for the system is still 8 years later the best game on the system. That makes it look like nothing else came out after 2012.
I mean, what can you say about the 3DS, bro? Like, if you're the Vita guy, then I'm probably the 3DS guy. But I'm also the guy that doesn't fucking buy games. I don't buy any games.
You're talking to a guy who, I say I'm not a 3DS guy, and I have 7 3DSs.
Dude, I've literally had 4 in my entire life.
Alright, I'm going to try and guess which ones they are. Are any of them imports?
No.
You don't have the SMT4 one. That was going to be my first guess. Dang, that's
how
surprising.
Expensive that shit is, bro.
Has it gone up in price? Because I got it when it was $200 back in like 2016. So I got it for not a terrible price.
Well, think of it this way. Like, $200 doesn't sound like a terrible price, But when it's between buying a 3DS in a language that you don't know that can only play specific games, or buying a rare piece of SMT jewelry that's possibly going to go out of date and is going to stop production sometime
You
soon.
are jonesing for that jewelry, dude.
I'm serious about it, bro. Me and LaRue were talking about it just like real quick before we wrap it up. You know what I'm saying? Like we were talking about it. If the people who watch this don't know, there is a Japanese website that sells SMT jewelry for the 25th anniversary. It's called Digital Devil Selection. There's tons of runs. There was the 2017, there's the 2018, and there's the special 2018 Christmas where they did a lot of fucking pink gold, rose gold type shit, like real expensive shit, custom made to whatever size you want. You know what I'm saying? And like there was tons of other shit that they were willing to make. They had a Black Frost design. They had a I don't know if this was official or not, but I saw an Apollo design from Persona 2.
That was
And
that was a fan mock-up. That was not official. I know which one you're talking about. That one looks sick. That one
Yeah,
looks
okay.
absolutely
So
sick.
it's just the Black Frost one then. So they teased that. They never released it. I don't know if you know this, but 2018 was 2 whole ass years ago. If they haven't released anything in 2 years, you know what that means? It's probably gonna go away sometime soon. So if I have the money,
you should tell people listening, by the way, how much some of these pieces go for.
the one I bought, which is probably one of the cheapest things you can buy, is a silver necklace with a literal 5 millimeter Jack Frost thing at the end of it. It was $240 to import it. That's including the proxy buyer fee. You know what I'm saying? And I bought the Jack Frost ring, the silver one with the cubic zirconium in it.
Mhm.
With that was $260 to import. The prices have actually gone up.
Yeah, with like those officially licensed like jewelry ones, like those are insane. Like I know from like my years of like covering like Final Fantasy, because Final Fantasy still does tons of jewelry to this day. Like
Yeah.
those ones, they start at like 400, and like the Solette ones go for like over $1,000. They're insane.
My issue is that like there's so much shit there that I like, but it's not something that I'd wear. Like I love the Hallelujah ring from Apocalypse,
I feel
but
like
I
that's
would
kind
never
of like
wear it.
sneaker culture though, especially with like game jewelry and like certain parts of like merch. That's why like certain things. Like I've always been known for in like my friend groups of like, oh, I always buy a lot of collector's editions. Even though I'm a lot more discerning now, I've kind of like scaled back, especially with things like I'm not one of those people who like buys figures. I don't buy prints because like a lot of it's like I'm not gonna like I don't have a place in my heart that just needs to like because I'm not gonna be playing with all these like figures like so I don't like lose my shit. Like this is not a diss on Figma, but it is definitely it's just as an example. The world's coolest Figma to me is going to have as much effect on me as having a Funko Pop, which I don't need in my life.
All I really want, bro, like are posters. That's it.
Posters
I
are
want
cool.
posters in my room.
You want an SMT4 Apocalypse poster? I got like 60.
Fuck off. I'm staring at it right now. It's the worst pre-order bonus I've ever. I don't even think that was a pre-order bonus. I think
It was a
just gave it to me.
No, it was a GameStop exclusive that they could not get rid of. And now I have all of them.
Fucking stupid.
I love them. I like that poster. I like that poster.
I don't like the fact that it has like a fucking date and then just a gigantic white bar on the bottom.
Thanks, GameStop. Never forget, by the way, SMT4 Apocalypse, the last time Atlas did retailer exclusive DLC, and God, I will never forget Best Buy Nanashi. That shit makes me laugh so hard.
Fucking Amazon, bro.
Amazon jacket was legit, and I'm glad I had that costume.
Talk to me about the fucking custom themes. I think it was
dude,
Japan only.
Dude, yeah, they never bring over the custom themes here. Like even on the PlayStation releases, which really sucks because like the Jack Frost 3DS theme, I think that was like an Amazon one. Like that one's great.
Oh damn, I kind of want that.
Yeah, sad face. Well, speaking of things we can't have this episode going on forever. But Dad, thank you so much for coming on. I know you're an international man of mystery, but where can people find you, and where do you want people to find you online?
It's my YouTube channel, and then I have a Discord account there. I'm not giving you my Instagram.
Well, because you only use your Instagram for the Instagram thoughts, right?
Yeah, it's like my personal one, and also for the thoughts.
Imagine if an SMT girl was a thing.
Gabby? Hello?
I'm gonna have that I'm gonna cut that little clip out and just send that to her so she can feel personally attacked on Twitter.
Yeah, I love you. Mwah.
Gabby ASMR roleplay for anyone out there if they pretend hard enough.
Yeah, you could just like
slow the audio down by like 25% and it just smells like.
Close your eyes and pretend you're Gab Mew.
It'll sound better than English dubbed Black Frost. That's at the very least confirmed. All right, man. Well, thank you again. If anyone out here is listening and does not follow the SMTN podcast online, you can follow us. Let's see. Our Facebook group is facebook.com/groups/SMT Network. You can follow us on Facebook. Nope, just said that. Wow, it's been a long day. Long quarantine, guys. Follow us on Twitter at SMT Network. You can follow me personally on Twitter. I am at Torchwood4SP if you'd like to be updated on all my latest Vita news, and usually just very rarely tweet there because tweeting on my personal account, 1 or 2 likes, cool. Tweeting on the podcast account, 10 likes, very cool.
Yeah.
You can find my YouTube channel just by following the stuff in the description below, or just searching Shin Megami Tensei Network or Spencer Presley. Which, by the way, don't want to brag, I'm at over 503 subscribers now, Dad. So
congratulations, bro! You absolutely deserve it.
Thank you. I'm just glad my most viewed video is not the one I'm the most proud of, or not even SMT related. It is a 4x3 fan cam of me filming a clip from Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal on a Saturday morning, and I was just like, oh, hey, I like this fight. Let's film this on a really crappy cam and post it up. And then like 30K views later, like to this day it still gets views randomly in comments. Just someone will be like, man, I fucking love Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. Someone will be like, I hate Baby Tyraga. This clip sucks. And it's just like, man, I'm never deleting any video off my YouTube. It's just like, it's like a timeline. It's not a good timeline, but it's a very accurate timeline. Also, fun fact, my second most viewed video is a good review, but a very bad video review of Record Breaker, actually. I think that has like something like a little over 10K or whatever views. That's a fun one of like, I'm glad that there's a SMT video I have that has that many views, and at the same point I'm really sad because it's like the only SMT Record Breaker review that's like over 500 views.
I mean, fuck it, bro. That's what you got.
There were very, very little coverage of that game when that came out.
It's a good game, though.
It is.
Thank you so much for having me on the podcast, Spencer.
No, how should we say goodbye? What's the most sensual way?
Count to 3 and we kiss our mics. Ready?
Oh, dude. Can we be sloppy?
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Mwah.